Chapter 55-56. At the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, an angry roar broke the silence in the duel arena. All the spectators in the spectator stands turned to look at the newcomer in unison. They saw a skinny, dark-skinned, bearded elder striding in from the entrance of the arena. This person's eyes were like lightning, and he walked with a majestic gait. His body was shrouded in a chilling aura. Wherever he walked, a layer of frost formed on the ground. A cold aura immediately spread out in the duel arena, and the temperature in the entire duel arena dropped rapidly. Lunar, Holy King Han Chong. Someone recognized the identity of the newcomer. Holy King. Everyone was shocked. Lunar Holy King Han Chong had some fame in the southern Man Royal City. After all, he was the one who allowed the Han family to take root in the southern Man Royal City. Even if the people in the arena hadn't seen Han Chong before, they had heard of his name. Moreover, Han Chong wasn't an ordinary Holy King. His cultivation had also reached the peak of Holy King. Such a Holy King wasn't comparable to an ordinary Holy King. Brat, get down here. Han Chong looked at the two figures in the arena anxiously. The person he was worried about was his only son, Han Feng. At this moment, Han Feng's body was riddled with wounds. Drop after drop of blood dripped from his body to the ground, and the smell of blood permeated the air. When one's cultivation reached the godly state, their sense of smell was extremely sensitive. As long as there was a trace of smell in the air, they would be able to capture it. Of course, Wu Hui's injuries weren't lighter than Han Feng's. It was obvious that Han Chong valued and was very concerned about his only son. Lunar, Holy King Han Chong had been cultivating hard all his life and didn't have time to marry and have children. Now that he finally had a son, he naturally couldn't let his son die, because he only had one son to pass on his mantle. If Han Feng died in the arena, Han Chong would have no descendants. Don't be a coward. Han Feng ignored his father. He stared at Wu Hui and roared. I'm not asking you to be a coward, but you can't fight anymore. Come with me. Han Chong shouted at Han Feng in the arena. What? Han Feng was a little surprised. What happened? Why did his father want him to go with him? Wu Hui, enough. At this time, another figure walked into the duel arena. Great Mage King? Wu Hui was shocked when he saw who it was. Han Chong and the Great Wizard King had actually appeared in the arena at the peak of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion at the same time. What was going on? Looks like I can't watch this show anymore. Someone stood up and left. However, most people were still sitting quietly because they were very curious. How about we fight next time? Wu Hui said. That's exactly what I was thinking. Han Feng nodded. With the arrival of Han Chong and the Great Wizard King, the battle between Han Feng and Wu Hui could no longer continue. Brother Han, your son is very powerful. The Great Mage King said to Han Chong with a faint smile. Didn't my son just beat up your son? What? You're not convinced? Han Chong said proudly. All these years they had endured so much. Now that Gu Fei was back, they didn't have to endure anymore. Seeing Han Chong's proud look, the Great Mage King was so angry that his chubby face twitched a few times. He stared at Han Chong fiercely. Things were different now. Now that Gu Fei was back, the sorcerer tribe wouldn't dare to provoke Gu Fei's people. The Great Mage King naturally didn't want to provoke Han Chong. The Great Mage King, who was extremely angry, could only suppress his anger. His son Wu Zhan was beaten badly by Han Feng. You have no choice but to be convinced. Who asked my son to be stronger than your son? Seeing the Great Mage King's defeated look, Han Chong became even more proud. You win. The Great Mage King took Wu Hui, who had come down from the duel arena, and left. You brat, you've got guts. How dare you go up to the duel arena? Han Chong reached out and gave his son a hard knock on his head. Father, Han Feng was in so much pain the tears flowed out. Follow me. Han Chong grabbed Han Feng's collar and dragged him away. Seeing that there was no more show to watch, the surrounding spectators also got up and left. Soon, only Gu Fei and Goddess Yanling were left in the duel arena. If Gu Fei didn't leave, how would Goddess Yanling dare to leave? At this time, Gu Fei's divine will enveloped the entire southern Man Imperial City. He sensed a large number of powerful auras gathered in the city, Lord's mansion of the southern Man Imperial City. There seemed to be some kind of gathering in the city Lord's mansion because all the powerhouses in the city were heading there. What are Xiaoya and the rest doing? Gu Fei said to himself. In the southern Man Imperial City, apart from Gu Fei, only Xiaoya and the rest could gather all the powerhouses in the city. Of course, it was only after Gu Fei's return that Xiaoya and the rest could gather all the powerhouses in the city. If it was in the past, who would care about Xiaoya and the rest? But now it was different. Once Xiaoya's order was issued, all the powerhouses in the southern Man Imperial City had to obey it because the consequences would be very serious if they didn't obey Xiaoya's order. At this time, night fell and the city, Lord's mansion, was brightly lit. The powerhouses of the major forces in the city were gathering in the city, Lord's mansion. However, Xiaoya and the rest had yet to return to the southern Man Imperial City. Since you're here, come out and meet me. At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly said. What? Goddess Yanling was shocked when she heard this and hurriedly looked around. However, she didn't see a single person. However, as soon as Gu Fei's voice fell, a figure silently appeared in front of Gu Fei without warning. Greetings, Senior. The person who came bowed respectfully to Gu Fei. Supreme Emperor Realm? Gu Fei only took a glance at this person to see through her. This person was one of the 2 Supreme Emperor Realm experts in the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Moreover, she was a stunning woman, a female Supreme Emperor. In the Void Realm, there were female Supreme Emperors. The 9-tailed Demon Fox Emperor under the Witch Emperor was a female. This Demon Fox Emperor transformed into a human and was a stunning woman. However, the woman in purple in front of him was not the 9-tailed Demon Fox Emperor. Who are you? Gu Fei didn't even look at the mysterious woman. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Goddess Yan Ling became nervous when she saw the person who came. This was because the person who came was the Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, a peerless expert of the Supreme Emperor Realm. Are you the owner of this place? Gu Fei said indifferently. Yes, I am the Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. The mysterious woman nodded and said, Why are you looking for me? Gu Fei asked. This woman would never appear for no reason. Chapter 55-57. The battle between Han Feng and Wu Hui could not continue at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, as they had been called away by the sudden appearance of Han Chong and the Great Shaman King. They had no choice but to leave, as even if they wanted to continue fighting, Han Chong and the Great Shaman King would stop them. Gu Fei had already changed his appearance when the 2 of them had appeared. Han Chong and the Great Shaman King could not recognize him at all. Actually, with Gu Fei's cultivation, he could make Han Chong and the Great Shaman King unable to recognize him at all even if he did not change his appearance. However, he had sealed his cultivation. Apart from the powerful spirit of his soul, he was only at the innate realm. However, even with that being the case, the mysterious Pavilion Master of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion had personally come to see him after learning his true identity. It could not be helped. He was Gu Fei after all. No one dared to act impudently before Gu Fei in the Void World right now. How could the Pavilion Master dare to not pay a visit when a great figure like that had appeared in her territory? It's my great fortune to be able to see you, Senior. The Pavilion Master smiled. She was very humble before Gu Fei, as he was a powerful infinite prime who had just subdued the limitless Demon Master. As the Pavilion Master of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, the mysterious woman had obviously received news that the limitless Demon Master had been subdued by Gu Fei. Moreover, the battle between Gu Fei and the limitless Sword Master had been earth-shattering, so the pavilion master obviously knew about it. It would be strange if she could sit still when such a powerful figure had come to the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. I'm very curious about you. Tell me, who are you? Gu Fei looked at the pavilion master of Juhuang Pavilion and said indifferently, Air! The pavilion master had never expected Gu Fei to be so direct. She was stunned for a moment before saying, Senior, please don't misunderstand. We're just a group of people who stand aloof from worldly affairs. We pose no threat to Senior. The pavilion master hurriedly expressed her stance. Is that so? If that's the case, you won't lose anything by telling me who you are. Gu Fei's tone remained calm. Seeing that Gu Fei still wanted to know about his origin, the pavilion master's forehead started to sweat. Goddess Yanling, who was standing to the side, was also extremely nervous. That's boring. Gu Fei's tone turned cold. There was actually a force that he didn't know of occupying the southern barbaric imperial city. How could this be allowed? Moreover, this force wasn't a small force. There were actually 2 transcendent Emperor Realm experts and 5 Emperor Realm experts hidden in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. These were only existences that Gu Fei sensed. This was definitely not the true strength of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. If this was only the tip of the iceberg, then the strength of the Juhuang Pavilion was much more terrifying. We stand aloof from worldly affairs. The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion still did not want to reveal his origins. All right, don't say such things. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Gu Fei's voice became even colder. What do you mean by standing aloof from worldly affairs? These are all lies. If the people of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion were strong enough, they would have already come out to contend for hegemony. Cold sweat flowed down the forehead of the pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Gu Fei, what's the big deal about bullying a little girl? At this moment, a faint and illusory figure suddenly emerged from the body of the pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. A powerful aura immediately erupted from this illusory figure. The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion and Goddess Yanling were both trembling in fear. Although this figure was just an illusory figure, it gave off a strong sense of oppression that could crush everything. It was as if the ruler of the world was looking down on ants on the ground. Infinite Prime. Gu Fei was shocked. He actually didn't sense that there was an incarnation hidden in the body of the pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Moreover, the strength of this incarnation was actually not weaker than the incarnation of Sacred Master Su Tian. How was this possible? There was such a powerful existence in the Void Realm. At this time, Gu Fei realized that he had really underestimated the people of the world. However, the overbearing appearance of this illusory figure made Gu Fei a little unhappy. Did I bully her? Haha. Gu Fei laughed. Since the Imperial Gathering Pavilion has an expert like you, I'm indeed a little surprised that you're still so low-key. Gu Fei said again, I'm just laughing at the storm in the sky. The illusory figure stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, like an otherworldly expert. Gu Fei, on the other hand, was speechless. This fellow was truly arrogant. This fellow was merely a clone. Why? You look like you've eaten a dead fly. Why, you're not convinced? The illusory figure said proudly. Sigh, how would I dare not be convinced? I'm really not convinced. Gu Fei sighed. If you're not convinced, then so be it. Why are you sighing? The illusory figure asked curiously. I'm sighing for you. Gu Fei looked at the illusory figure with a flash of light in his eyes. What? The illusory figure was taken aback. In the next moment, before he could return to his senses, he was grabbed by a big hand. You! The illusory figure was instantly dumbfounded. I'd like to see who you are. Gu Fei did not waste any more time talking to this guy. He directly removed the seal, stretched out his right hand, and directly grabbed this extremely arrogant guy in his hand. Without any hesitation, he directly performed the godly seizing secret technique and directly read the memories of this incarnation. Damn it! The illusory figure was shocked. In the next moment, the illusory figure directly disappeared in the void, instantly turning into nothingness. Gu Fei could not help but be surprised. This guy was really impressive. He actually directly self-destructed and turned into nothingness. Impressive, really impressive. Gu Fei had no choice but to admire him. This was also a means of self-protection, to guard against ruthless people like Gu Fei. Gu Fei was not a person who played by the rules. The emperor, although it was only for a moment, Gu Fei still succeeded in reading some of this guy's memories. The real body of this incarnation was called the emperor, and this emperor was related to the limitless realm. Where is your master? Gu Fei looked at the pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion and asked, Master's abilities are remarkable and mysterious. How could we possibly know where Master is? The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion said in fear. This Gu Fei really lived up to his name. He actually forced the Master's incarnation to turn into nothingness. Otherwise, the Master's memories would be read by Gu Fei. Of course, the Master might not necessarily be afraid of Gu Fei. The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion was very confident in her master, the Emperor. Is that so? Gu Fei looked at the Imperial Gathering Pavilion with a faint smile. Just now, he discovered something very interesting. Perhaps he would soon be able to find that old bastard, sacred master Su Tian for revenge. Chapter 55-58. The sudden appearance of an infinite prime surprised Gu Fei. He originally thought that the infinite prime in the void world was the clone of sacred master Su Tian, the limitless sword master, the limitless demon master, and the others. Who would have thought that there would be an emperor? This emperor was a ruthless character. When he was about to read the memories of the emperor's clone actually turned into nothingness. The emperor's clone was at the extreme Tao realm. It was probably not much weaker than sacred master Su Tian's clone. Just a clone was already so powerful. One could imagine how powerful the emperor's real body was. Preposterous! High up in the sky of the void extent, a furious roar came from a holy mountain hidden in the void. A terrifying aura burst out from the peak of the holy mountain. Rumble! The entire godly mountain started shaking. That Gu Fei is really despicable. Does he really think he's invincible? What a joke! A figure stood at the peak of the godly mountain and roared. What's wrong with our emperor? Why is he so angry? A figure appeared at the peak of the godly mountain. It was a mysterious person covered in a black cloak. This person's aura was very strange. It was as if he had fused with the surrounding void. Mo-ing, what are you doing here? The emperor stared at the person coldly. Master's plan is about to be carried out. I'm here to see how you've prepared. Mo-ing said. What? The honorable emperor was pleasantly surprised when he heard this. Did his master really succeed? How is this possible? What, you don't believe me? Mo-ing looked at the emperor. His eyes flashed. I finally don't have to guard this godforsaken place anymore. The emperor recovered from his shock and suddenly burst into laughter. Tears flickered in the corners of his eyes because he had been guarding this place for far, far too long. Now he could finally go back. However, before that, he had to find someone to play with. This person dared to force his clone to turn into nothingness. He had to settle this score, no matter what. The emperor had been bored for countless years, so he created an extremely powerful incarnation. However, this incarnation was forced to self-destruct by Gu Fei. This made his heart ache and made him hate Gu Fei. Humph, you wish. After saying that, the mysterious man called Mo-ing soared into the sky and disappeared into the void. TSK, don't you want to leave this place? The emperor shouted towards the sky. Mo-ing did not respond to Her Majesty. Sigh, Master is truly daring. He actually succeeded. This way, the entire myriad heavens will belong to Master. The emperor was extremely excited. And at this time in the Void Realm, in the southern barbarian imperial city, in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Gu Fei directly read the primordial spirit memories of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion Master. He was a little surprised and disappointed. The Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion really didn't know where the guy called the Emperor was. This made him a little unhappy. Gu Fei was really interested in the origin of the Emperor. However, he never thought that the place where the Emperor was located was an extremely important place. With the identity of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion Master, he was not qualified to know the existence of this place. The Master of the Emperor was going to stir up trouble. The entire Void Realm might undergo a great change. Gu Fei then directly left the Emperor Gathering Pavilion and returned to the southern barbarian imperial city. Xiao Ye and Long Xiaozhou were still playing the hunting game. At this time, in order to survive, Heaven Mixing Emperor chose to become a demon. After this guy became a demon, he could actually stimulate the power of the demonic weapon in his hand. Not only did his combat strength soar, but the power of the demonic weapon in his hand was also getting stronger and stronger. At the same time, the big shots in the southern barbarian imperial city had already gathered in the city lord residence. Xiao Ye and Long Xiaozhou's subordinates were there to receive them. "It's almost time," Long Xiaozhou said to Xiao Ye beside him. Xiao Ye nodded and said nothing. At this time, the demonic Heaven Mixing Emperor was extremely powerful and ferocious. He actually forced Hong Zue to continuously retreat. In another place, the 10,000 Elephant King and the North Vanquishing King had already been captured. Both of them had been beaten to a pulp. However, they were still breathing and hadn't been beaten to death. The Black Dragon King, Qiu Qianjian, other experts of the West Sea Dragon Clan, the Buddhist clan's King Realm, and even some Shaman Kings were attacking. Even if the 10,000 Elephant King and the North Vanquishing King had 3 heads and 6 arms, they couldn't withstand the siege of a large number of King Realm experts. Among the 5 traitors, only the demonic Heaven Mixing Emperor was still fighting with all his might. Kill! The Heaven Mixing Emperor had completely become a demon. He roared madly and fought with Hong Zue, causing Hong Zue to continuously cough up blood. At this time, the Heaven Mixing Emperor had fused with the demonic weapon, and his combat strength was getting stronger and stronger. It actually allowed the Heaven Mixing Emperor's combat strength to break through to the mid-level Emperor realm. Hong Zue's cultivation was only at the low-level Emperor realm. It was already a miracle that Hong Zue hadn't been beaten to death by a crazed demon at the mid-level Emperor realm. Those who came back with Master are all heaven-defying. Xiao Ye and Long Xiaozhou were shocked when they saw this scene from afar. Hong Zue was challenging a demon of a higher realm than her. "I wonder what kind of relationship she has with Master," Long Xiaozhou said. Hong Zue's combat strength was shocking enough. Before Gu Fei's appearance, there had never been a case of surpassing one's level in the Mirage to challenge someone of a higher level. In the Void Realm, the stronger the expert, the weaker the expert. It was impossible for the weak to defeat the strong. This was something that everyone in the Void Realm knew. However, for Gu Fei, challenging an expert of a higher realm was as easy as drinking wine and eating meat. This directly shattered the understanding of all the cultivators in the Void Realm. "It's none of our business what kind of relationship she has with Master," Xiao Ye said. "That's true." Long Xiaozhou nodded. "If we don't act now, this girl will be beaten to death by the demonic Heaven Mixing Emperor." Long Xiaozhou added, "I'm just a half-step Emperor Realm cultivator. You should be the one to do it." Xiao Ye glanced at Long Xiaozhou and said angrily, "Do you want me, a half-step Emperor Realm cultivator, to challenge a mid-level Emperor Realm demon? All right." Long Xiaozhou saw Hong Zue being sent flying by the Heaven Mixing Emperor. Hong Zue circulated her mystic art to resist the demonic energy with all her might, but she was still injured by the Heaven Mixing Emperor. A trace of blood could be seen at the corner of her mouth. Hong Zue knew that she was no match for the demonic Heaven Mixing Emperor. However, the primordial divine clan, was not to be trifled with. Hong Zue-er's battle intent was still high. "Little sister, let me do it!" Long Xiaozhou walked towards the battlefield step by step. Little sister? Hong Zue-er was extremely depressed. She had lived for countless years. Of course, she spent most of her time in slumber. However, she was definitely much older than these two brats. Chapter 55-59. The demonized chaotic heavenly emperor was extremely powerful. Even Hong Zue-er was no match for him and was forced to retreat continuously. Bone King and Huang Fuzun were eager to join the fray. However, Long Xiaozhou was one step ahead of them. Long Xiaozhou walked towards the battlefield step by step. A powerful emperor-class aura erupted from her body, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Long Xiaozhou was in existence at the peak of the Emperor realm. Bone King and Huang Fuzun had no choice but to retreat far away. It would be no laughing matter if they were caught in the crossfire. Since Long Xiaozhou had joined the fray, the Emperor realm experts, who were eyeing covetously in the surroundings, naturally gave up on the idea of joining the fray. Who would dare to compete with Long Xiaozhou for the chaotic heavenly emperor? Those who could cultivate to the emperor realm were all extremely shrewd. Naturally, they would not make such a low-level mistake. Therefore, everyone retreated far away and watched the show quietly. Roar! The chaotic heavenly emperor roared crazily. Endless demonic chi erupted from his body. The entire void was filled with strands of demonic chi. A strand of demonic chi hit a plant, causing the originally beautiful flower to wither immediately. A beetle flew up from the grass and came into contact with a strand of demonic chi. In the next moment, the beetle was demonized by the demonic chi and turned into a gigantic demon armor beetle with bone spikes all over its body. It looked extremely ferocious. The demon armor beetle flew directly towards Long Xiaozhou. Just as the demon armor beetle was 3 feet away from Long Xiaozhou, it exploded with a bang and directly hit Long Xiaozhou's protective astral energy. At this moment, the demonized demonic creatures flew towards Long Xiaozhou from all directions. These demonic creatures were small creatures that had been demonized. Small lizards, flies, mosquitoes, and so on. Although they were small and harmless, once they were demonized, they became ferocious demonic creatures. The demonized demon mosquito was even bigger than a wolf cub. If one was bitten by it, all the blood in one's body would be sucked dry in an instant. There were many of these demonized little creatures. They were like a black cloud that flew towards Long Xiaozhou. Everyone who saw this scene was extremely nervous. Clearly, these demonized demonic creatures were under the control of the Chaos Heavenly Emperor. Soon, countless demonic creatures directly collided with Long Xiaozhou's shield of vigor. Dull crashing sounds rang out continuously, and the ferocious and terrifying demonic creatures directly exploded. The nauseating smell of blood filled the air. Long Xiaozhou immediately held his breath. She had no intention of dealing with these monsters at all. She just let them hit her protective aura shield. "He's yours." Hong Zue-er attacked with all her might, forcing the chaotic heavenly emperor back. Then, she immediately used her escape technique and instantly escaped. She left decisively. Having lost his opponent, the chaotic sky emperor roared and stared at Long Xiaozhou. Then he reached out with his right hand and grabbed at Long Xiaozhou. Endless demonic energy instantly condensed into a huge demonic hand that grabbed towards Long Xiaozhou. Humph! Long Xiaozhou waved her right hand casually. In the next moment, there was a boom, and the huge demonic hand that was grabbing at her directly exploded in the air. Long Xiaozhou took a step and directly disappeared on the spot. When she reappeared, she was already above the chaotic sky emperor's head. Her right foot directly stepped on the chaotic sky emperor's head. Roar! The chaotic sky emperor roared angrily and grabbed with both hands. Long Xiaozhou's right foot tapped on the chaotic sky emperor's head and she soared into the sky. However, the chaotic sky emperor was in a miserable state. Half of his body was directly pressed into the ground by Long Xiaozhou's foot. Boom! The ground exploded and soil splashed everywhere. A demonic figure soared into the sky and directly pounced towards Long Xiaozhou in the sky. It was extremely fierce. The chaotic Sky Emperor instantly pounced in front of Long Xiaozhou. Humph! Long Xiaozhou sneered. In the next moment, her figure actually became transparent. The chaotic Sky Emperor that was pouncing towards her actually passed through her figure as if he was passing through the air. Secret technique of anti-emptiness? Xiao Ye's eyes lit up when she saw this scene from afar. The remarkable ability that Long Xiaozhou had displayed was one of the 9 secrets of immortal Tao that Gu Fei had imparted to them. The secret technique of anti-emptiness, merging one's body with heaven and earth and drawing the power of heaven and earth for one's own use. This was the secret technique of anti-emptiness. By becoming one with heaven and earth, Long Xiaozhou was the heaven and earth. Xiao Ye had no choice but to admit that the Dragon Clan's talent was truly amazing. Compared to the Dragon Clan, the talent of the human clan was indeed somewhat lacking. Xiao Ye's display of the 9 secrets of immortal Tao was naturally not as powerful as Long Xiaozhou's. However, Long Xiaozhou was in existence at the peak of the Emperor realm. On the other hand, Xiao Ye was only at the half-step Emperor realm. At this moment, the eyes of the spectators nearby widened. What kind of remarkable ability did Long Xiaozhou display? Everyone was very curious. The 9 secrets of immortal Tao was Gu Fei's cultivation method. Naturally, the cultivators in the Void Realm had never seen such a mystical cultivation method. Long Xiaozhou's figure seemed to have completely melted into the surrounding void. She was like the air, becoming completely incorporeal. Because of this, the chaotic heavenly emperor passed through Long Xiaozhou's figure. Rumble! The entire heaven and earth shook. All the power of heaven and earth was drawn by Long Xiaozhou. At this moment, it was as if she was acting on behalf of the heavens. Lightning come. Long Xiaozhou waved her right hand. In the next moment, the sky above the chaotic heavenly emperor's head darkened. Then a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and directly struck the chaotic heavenly emperor. "Oh my God, this guy has been struck by lightning," someone exclaimed. The chaotic heavenly emperor was struck by the lightning. Every strand of his hair stood on end. His face turned black and his body emitted black smoke. This guy was directly struck by the lightning and was stunned in the void. The demonic qi all over his body was dispersed by the power of the lightning. His clothes were tattered and he looked extremely miserable. Seeing the chaotic heavenly emperor in such a miserable state after being struck by the lightning, the Emperor Realm experts nearby immediately hid far away. At this moment, countless bolts of lightning appeared above the chaotic heavenly emperor's head. One after another, lightning tore through the void and directly struck the chaotic heavenly emperor. With a whoosh, the chaotic heavenly emperor disappeared on the spot. However, when he reappeared, countless bolts of lightning instantly struck his body and blasted him down from the sky. This wasn't just 5 bolts of lightning. No one knew how many bolts of lightning had struck this guy's body. The chaotic heavenly emperor fell from the sky and directly smashed a huge pit in the ground. Chapter 5560. Huntian Heavenly Sovereign was beaten miserably by Long Xiaozhou. At that moment, Long Xiaozhou fused with heaven and earth. It was as if she was acting on behalf of heaven and earth. With a single thought, she attracted countless lightning bolts and directly blasted the demonic, chaotic Sky Sovereign down from the sky. In the sky above, the thunderclouds were almost pressing down on the ground. Countless lightning bolts struck down from the thunderclouds, and a destructive aura spread across the world. Every Emperor Realm cultivator who witnessed this scene was flabbergasted. The divine ability that Long Xiaozhou displayed was too powerful. The demonized chaotic Sky Sovereign was extremely fierce and powerful, but he still couldn't fight back against the lightning that Long Xiaozhou attracted. Dazzling lightning wreaked havoc in the void, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. Roar! The demonized chaotic sky emperor roared continuously and attacked with all his might in an attempt to disperse the lightning descending from the sky. However, it was all in vain. In the face of absolute power, it was impossible for the chaotic heavenly emperor to defeat Long Xiaozhou, no matter how much he demonized. With Long Xiaozhou's cultivation and combat strength, he could even kill an advanced Emperor Realm demonic being. Not to mention that the Heaven Torrent Sovereign wasn't even at the great completion level of the Emperor Realm. There was no suspense in this battle. Moreover, the Limitless Demon Master had already surrendered to Gu Fei. The Limitless Demon Master's life was in the hands of Gu Fei. He wouldn't dare to help Han Tianhuang. Very soon, the chaotic Sky Sovereign's aura gradually weakened under the bombardment of the heavenly thunder. At this time, the big shots who were watching the battle nearby started to retreat, because Han Tian was dead for sure. I'll go back first. After saying that, Little Ye disappeared into the void. At this time, the southern barbaric imperial city was brightly lit under the moonlit night. Especially the city lord's estate, it was even more bustling. In the entire southern barbaric imperial city, there were 3 places that ordinary people couldn't enter at will. The first was naturally the southern barbaric imperial palace, because it was the residence of every generation of southern barbaric emperor. The second place was the sorcerer palace. Yes, the status of the sorcerer palace was higher than the city lord mansion of the southern barbarian imperial city. It couldn't be helped. Who asked the sorcerer race to be the former ruler of the southern barbarian? The witch race's temporary imperial residence was much larger than the southern man imperial city's city lord mansion. However, there were not many lights in the temporary imperial residence of the sorcerer tribe because the sorcerer kings had already rushed to the city lord's mansion. Xiao Ye summoned the leaders of the various forces in the southern man imperial city for a meeting. That's right, it was just a meeting. If it was before Gu Fei's return, Xiao Ye's words wouldn't be useful in the southern barbaric imperial city. Those in power of the various forces in the city wouldn't put Xiao Ye in their eyes at all, because in the void realm, strength was everything. Xiao, you wasn't even at the Emperor Realm, so how could those Emperor Realm experts in the southern barbarian imperial city listen to someone who was weaker than them? But things were different now. Gu Fei was back. After Gu Fei returned, he didn't need to do anything at all. All he needed was Xiao Ye and Long Xiaozhou to show up. The Emperor Realm cultivators in the city could only obey obediently, especially after the news of Gu Fei subduing the limitless demon lord spread. Who in the entire Void Realm would dare to not listen to Gu Fei's orders? Who would dare to go against Gu Fei? Of course, unless those guys were courting death, then it would be another matter. When Xiao Ye and the others' hunting game was over, the Eastern Wasteland Demon Clan army that invaded the Southern Barbarian was still confronting the army under Xiao Ye's command. The Eastern Wasteland Demon Clan army was overseen by Long Zun. It wasn't an easy task for Xiao Ye's army to destroy the Eastern Wasteland Demon Clan's 5-clan coalition army. Gu Fei wouldn't make a move because, in his eyes, the entire Eastern Wasteland Demon Clan was just a small shrimp. Moreover, the Eastern Wasteland Demon Clan army was already trapped. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Then he would slowly play with these guys. Xiao Ye and the others had plenty of time. There was no suspense in the outcome of the chaotic Heavenly Emperor. Long Xiaozhou attracted an even stronger heavenly thunder and directly blasted this guy into dregs. With the fall of the chaotic heavenly emperor, the rebellion in the southern barbarian imperial city ended. However, the chaotic heavenly emperor Wu Fang, Wansheng King, North Vanquishing King, Saber King, and the others still had many properties in the southern barbarian imperial city. Naturally, there would be people to deal with these things. Gu Fei wouldn't be ruthless either. At this time, the southern barbarian imperial city's city, lord residence, was bustling with noise and excitement. The various forces gathered together, but no one spoke. There were many people, but it was quiet. Everyone's expression was very grave because they had already guessed why Xiaoyu gathered them. Wu Hui and Han Feng, who were called away by the Great Witch King and Han Dong, were also in the crowd. At this time they had already changed into a clean set of clothes, but the injuries on their faces were still very obvious. And the Great Witch King's son, Wu Zhan, was also present. With the Great Witch King's cultivation, wasn't it easy for him to cure his son? The leaders of the other forces in the southern barbarian imperial city also brought their juniors here to let them broaden their horizons. The big shots didn't speak, so those juniors didn't dare to speak even more. In the city lord residence's main hall, the atmosphere was very oppressive. Just at this time, a figure walked in from outside. Everyone in the main hall automatically opened up a path. The person who came in was a young girl in white clothes, and her face was also covered. No one dared to use their divine sense to probe this young girl in white clothes, because this was a form of offense to the young girl in white clothes. No one dared to offend this young girl in white clothes at this time. Xiaoyu, thousands of years have passed, and she has only grown into a young girl, while ordinary mortals would have already passed down their cultivation for dozens or hundreds of generations. This was the advantage of cultivators of the God realm and above. They obtained longevity through cultivation. However, longevity was relative, provided that they didn't encounter a lord who could kill gods and Buddhas. Xiaoyu proudly walked into the main hall, passed through the crowd, walked up the stairs, and walked step by step to the front of the throne. Then she turned around, swept a glance at the experts in the main hall, and then sat on the throne. She was like an empress looking down on the crowd. "Greetings, your highness, goddess." All the experts in the main hall bowed to Xiaoyu at the same time, and the juniors in the crowd directly knelt on the ground. It was their honor to be able to see the mysterious and unfathomable goddess. One must know that in these thousands of years, Xiaoyu did not casually show her face, and the feeling she gave people was mysterious. In the entire southern barbarian imperial city, there were really not many people who had seen Xiaoyu's true face. "You are not my subordinates. No need to be so polite." Xiaoyu waved her right hand and said indifferently, "Senior sister, why are you so polite to them?" At this time, a voice came from outside the main hall, and another woman walked in from outside the main hall. Everyone was shocked when they saw the person who came, because this woman was Long Xiaozhou, an existence at the peak of the Emperor realm. Long Xiaozhou alone could sweep away most of the Emperor realm experts here. Xiaoyu did not speak. "All of you listen to me. You only have two choices now. One is to become our subordinates and work for us. The other is to die. Choose." Long Xiaozhou walked through the crowd to the throne opposite and said with incomparable domineeringness. Chapter 5561. Xiaoyu summoned the leaders of all the forces in Nanman Royal City for a meeting in the main hall of the city lord residence. Xiaoyu was relatively polite, but her aura was like that of an empress, looking down on all heroes. With Xiaoyu's cultivation and combat power, she was actually far from being able to look down on all heroes. But who asked her master to be the legend of the void realm Gufei? With such a master as a backer, Xiaoyu's mood was incomparably comfortable, and she walked with the wind. Similarly, Long Xiaozhou also began to be high-profile because at this time, even if she wanted to be low-key, the conditions did not allow it. As soon as Long Xiaozhou came up, she wanted these big shots in the main hall to directly pledge allegiance to her and become her subordinates, which shocked everyone in the main hall to the extreme. A thought popped up in everyone's mind. That's right, this is too direct. In fact, those who could appear in the main hall of the city lord residence had already guessed what Xiaoyu wanted to do by gathering them here. The legend of the void realm, Gufei, had returned, and no one could suppress Xiaoyu and the others anymore. The rise of Xiaoyu and the others was unstoppable. Everyone could already foresee that in the future, the entire Nanman and even the entire void realm would be dominated by one force. "You want us all to become your slaves with just one sentence." Someone couldn't help but say angrily, "Who has the guts?" Long Xiaozhou walked to the bottom of the throne and stood still, then turned to look at the person who spoke. At this time, the people around that guy flashed to the side, as if avoiding the god of plague, all looking at this person in shock. This person actually dared to anger Long Xiaozhou. Wasn't this the rhythm of courting death? So it's him. Bei Wang Longqing? When everyone saw who was angry at Long Xiaozhou, they were all taken aback. This Bei Wang was not an ordinary king. He seemed to be very close to Dong Huang, and his appearance here shocked all the experts in the main hall. Bei Wang was one of the 16 kings of Nanman. Now, with the Witch King Wu Fang, North Garrison King, Wanshan King, and Hun Tian Sky King killed, there were only 12 kings left of the 16 kings. Originally, there were 19 kings of Nanman, but today 7 kings had fallen. In the main hall of the city, Lord's Mansion, the other vassal kings were a little nervous. Longqing, you're good. As Long Xiaozhou spoke, he gave Longqing a thumbs up. Among all the people present, which one of them was not a tyrant. However, only this Bei Wang dared to provoke Long Xiaozhou. What gave him the confidence to provoke Long Xiaozhou? I'm telling the truth. You want us to be your slaves with just one sentence? I can't accept this, Longqing said loudly. His face was stern, and there was no trace of fear on his face. Then what do I have to do to convince you? Long Xiaozhou looked at Longqing with a faint smile. At the same time, the information about Lord Bei also appeared in her mind. Lord Bei was one of the southern barbarian feudal lords. His cultivation and combat power were among the best. Bei Wang was also a peak emperor realm cultivator. Moreover, the relationship between the northern wilderness king and the former eastern king was not ordinary. The current eastern king had become the eastern emperor, and in a battle, the eastern emperor's army had been defeated. Xiao Ye's army charged straight into Dong Huang's lair. Only Dong Huang and his grandfather, Lin Xiaotian, escaped to Zhongtian. Although Lord Bei had the cultivation of the emperor realm, his title remained the same. He was still a noble. In the past thousands of years, some strong people had risen in the southern barbarian, and Lord Bei was one of the best among the emperor realm cultivators. In fact, before Gu Fei returned, if it were not for the support of the West Sea Dragon clan and the Zhongtian Buddha clan, Xiaoyu would not have been able to suppress the feudal lords of the southern barbarian. Even the eastern king had become the emperor in the eastern part of the southern barbarian. Xiao, you could not do anything about the eastern emperor. In the southern barbarian, one could not simply become an emperor. The strong are respected. If you want me to submit, then you have to be stronger than me and defeat me. Lord Bei stared at Long Xiaozhou, who was standing under the throne, and said loudly, "The strong are respected, right? Very well," Long Xiaozhou said as she disappeared on the spot. The group of experts in the main hall was startled. What? Especially Lord Bei, he was even more shocked. In the next moment, Long Xiaozhou appeared in front of Lord Bei in an instant. His right hand reached out like lightning and grabbed Lord Bei's head. Bei Wang's shock was not small at all. He immediately threw a punch at Long Xiaozhou. However, in the next moment, the punch he threw at Long Xiaozhou inexplicably landed on his own chest. Bang! Crack! The sound of impact and bones breaking sounded at the same time. Lord Bei spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as Bei Wang's blood was about to spray onto Long Xiaozhou's body, a ball of divine light emerged from Long Xiaozhou's body and blocked the blood. At this time, Lord Bei screamed in horror. He only felt that the primordial qi in his body was gathering quickly towards the palm of the other party that was grabbing his head and was being directly swallowed by the other party. In just an instant, a small half of the primordial qi in his body was absorbed by the other party. At this time, Lord Bei did not care about anything else and attacked Long Xiaozhou crazily. However, to everyone's astonishment, all of Lord Bei's attacks were instantly reversed by Long Xiaozhou and directly hit his own body. Then, Lord Bei was directly beaten to a pulp by himself. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The magic that Long Xiaozhou used was too strange. Lord Bei was an amazing person at the peak of the Emperor realm, but Long Xiaozhou could actually reverse his attack. This was too frightening. Lord Bei, who was seriously injured, could not gather the primordial qi in his body. The primordial qi in his body was like a river bursting through a dam, gathering towards Long Xiaozhou's right hand that was grabbing Lord Bei's head. Xiaoya, who was sitting on the throne in the hall, saw this scene and could not help but frown. However, she did not say anything, because she knew very well that Long Xiaozhou was establishing his power. Xiaoya and the others wanted to establish their power. Since Lord Bei had appeared at this time, they would use him as an example. However, Long Xiaozhou's act of publicly devouring someone else's primordial qi made Xiao Yi somewhat disapproving. Long Xiaozhou's 9 secrets of immortal Tao had also been cultivated to a certain degree. Lord Bei was also courting death. Although Long Xiaozhou's cultivation level was similar to his, Long Xiaozhou had obtained Gu Fei's inheritance. Gu Fei's 9 secrets of immortal Tao was originally not a cultivation method of the Void Realm. Long Xiaozhou and Xiao Yi rarely used this magic in front of others. Because Gu Fei was not here, there was no one to support them, so they had to keep a low profile. But now, they no longer needed to keep a low profile. Chapter 5562 Nanman Imperial City. In the main hall of the city, Lord's Mansion, everyone's eyes almost fell to the ground. The hall was silent, so quiet that one could hear a needle drop to the ground. The dignified Bei Wang, who was at the peak of the Emperor realm, became a cripple in front of them. Long Xiaozhou's cultivation was so powerful, crippling a peak Emperor stage cultivator was like crippling a chicken. Everyone's forehead was sweating and they were all uneasy. Fortunately, they were not the ones who were crippled by Long Xiaozhou. At this time, Long Xiaozhou, who had absorbed Bei Wang's cultivation, withdrew her right hand from Bei Wang's head and stretched comfortably. Her aura suddenly increased a lot. The experts in the hall suddenly felt as if an invisible mountain was pressing down on them, making it hard for them to breathe. As for the younger generation like Han Feng and Wu Hui, they were directly pressed to the ground by this aura. They trembled in fear and were extremely terrified. Long Xiaozhou's aura quickly disappeared. Everyone in the main hall breathed a sigh of relief. Bei Wang, who was paralyzed on the ground like mud, stared at Long Xiaozhou in horror. He never thought that Long Xiaozhou would directly cripple him. One should know that he was Bei Wang, a feudal lord in Nanman. Whether it was cultivation or power, Bei Wang was also one of the best among the feudal lords in Nanman. However, Long Xiaozhou did not have any scruples at all and directly crippled Bei Wang. "Come," Long Xiaozhou said indifferently. "Drag this guy out and throw him directly out of the imperial city." Long Xiaozhou waved her right hand. Yes, the 2 people directly went forward to grab Bei Wang and dragged him out. At this time, everyone in the main hall looked at Long Xiaozhou in horror. Who else is dissatisfied? Long Xiaozhou glanced at the audience. Wherever her eyes passed, everyone's eyes did not dare to meet her eyes, and they all lowered their heads. Even Bei Wang was crippled by Long Xiaozhou, who dared to be dissatisfied. They had no choice but to be dissatisfied because the price of being dissatisfied was too high. All of you better do things honestly. Otherwise, that guy just now will be your example. Long Xiaozhou was incomparably domineering. Her meaning was already very clear. Submit to me and prosper. Oppose me and perish. Yes, Your Highness Goddess will obey your orders. Everyone in the hall immediately knelt down in front of Long Xiaozhou. Xiaoya, who was sitting on the throne, saw this scene and did not care. She had always been low-key, unlike Long Xiaozhou. Her junior sister had endured for so many years, and now she finally did not have to endure anymore. Naturally, she needed to vent. Before Gu Fei returned, Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou could only tuck their tails between their legs and behave. Moreover, they were also subjected to the checks and balances of the major forces in the south. To Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou, this was very aggrieved. There was nothing wrong with Xiaoya. She was a quiet person by nature and had always kept a low profile. However, Long Xiaozhou was different. She was the little princess of the West Sea Dragon race. She was the treasure of the West Sea Dragon race since birth. She had never felt so aggrieved before. Now, she could finally hold her head high. Now, who would dare to be impudent in front of her? At this time, all the major forces in the south had to bow their heads to Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou, because if they did not bow their heads, they would be directly crippled by Long Xiaozhou like Bei Wangwang. Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou successfully suppressed all the major forces in the south. Until now, the entire south was considered to be completely under their control. Even the sorcerer tribe had to bow their heads at this time. Because the sorcerer empress had been in seclusion for 1,000 years, no one knew where she was. If the sorcerer empress did not come out, how could the entire sorcerer tribe compete with Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou? Moreover, the present was different from the past. Now that Gu Fei had returned, Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou had the most powerful backing. Behind them was Gu Fei. In the current void realm, no one dared to provoke Gu Fei. If the sorcerer tribe did not want to be exterminated, they could only choose to bow their heads to Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou. Now, with Long Xiaozhou crippling Bei Wangwang, the 12 feudal lords of the south had one less person. Bei Wangwang's territory was naturally controlled by Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou. These two girls are not bad. In the highest hall of the southern barbarian palace, a person was holding a wine jar in his hand. He sat directly on the roof of the hall and was looking in the direction of the city, Lord's mansion. This person was Gu Fei. Everything that Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou did in the city, Lord's mansion, was under Gu Fei's divine telekinesis. These two little girls had made great progress in the past thousands of years. As long as Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou's cultivation broke through to a higher level, they could truly be independent. Now, Long Xiaozhou could barely be independent, but Xiaoya could not, because in the cultivation world, the strong were respected, and Xiaoya was only at the half-step emperor realm. This kind of cultivation was not enough to suppress the feudal lords of the south. The reason why the forces of the south chose to bow down to them was to a large extent because of Gu Fei. If Gu Fei had not returned, even if Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou had the backing of the West Sea Dragon clan and the Culmination Buddha clan, they would not be able to suppress these guys in the south. At this time, there was still one thing that had not been resolved in the entire south, and that was the Eastern Wilderness Demon clan that invaded the south was trapped in the mountains of the south. This Eastern Wilderness Demon clan army was the elite of the 5 major demon clans of the Eastern Wilderness. If they were annihilated, the Eastern Wilderness Demon clan's vitality would be greatly damaged. It would be difficult for them to recover for at least tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. We are trapped. In the camp of the 5 major demon clans of the Eastern Wilderness, Long Zun glanced at all the Eastern Wilderness Demon clan experts present and said in a deep voice, "What should we do?" An expert of the demon race said in horror, "Why don't we surrender?" Another Emperor Realm expert of the demon clan said, "Surrendering to Xiao, you seem to be their best choice. Otherwise they, the mighty figures of the demon clan, would all die in the southern wilderness. To be honest, if they could live, who would want to die?" All the demon clan experts in the camp were looking at Long Zun because the 5 major demon clans followed Long Zun's lead. And the leader of the 5 major demon clans of the Eastern Wilderness Demon clan was Long Zun. Long Zun's cultivation and combat strength were the strongest in the Eastern Wilderness Demon clan. The demon clan had always believed in the truth that the strong were respected. Surrender. Long Zun frowned when he heard this. Gu Fei had returned. The Eastern Wilderness Demon clan was like an ant in front of Gu Fei. Gu Fei would not personally attack them because they were not worthy at all. However, Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou's subordinates were as many as the clouds. Chapter 5563. The strength of the Eastern Wilderness demon race was one of the best in the Void Realm. Their overall strength was stronger than the South Barbarian, the West Sea, and the North Ruins. They were only slightly weaker than Zhongtian. But now the Eastern Wilderness demon race's 5-clan coalition army was trapped in the South Barbarian, an uncivilized place in the eyes of the Eastern Wilderness demon race. In fact, Longzuin had long noticed that the entire area in the mountain range where they were located was sealed. The power that trapped them was so strong that even if Longzuin used the Eastern Wilderness demon race's most precious treasure, he still wouldn't be able to break it. Moreover, Xiao Ye's army had already surrounded them, but Xiao Ye's army only surrounded them without attacking. The 4 divine generals under Gu Fei were also stationed not far away from the demon race's army. If the demon race made a move, they would immediately launch an attack. The sorcerer race also had an army stationed in another direction, eyeing the demon race covetously. Then there was the army led by Xiao Ye's subordinate, Huang Fuzun. Although Huang Fuzun was an emperor of formations, he was also good at leading troops. He hadn't been idle in the past few thousand years. The Bone Emperor of the North Ruins had long surrendered to Gu Fei. He had also opened his inner world and released his undead army. The aura of death spread throughout the mountain range. Surrounded by this army, the Eastern Wilderness demon race was in a desperate situation. "Master, I think we should surrender." Phyrecolin Forefather, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. The Phyrecolin race was one of the 5 great demon clans of the Eastern Wilderness. Phyrecolin race Forefather was a famous Emperor Realm expert in the Void Realm. Even a hot-tempered guy like you wants to surrender to Gu Fei. Longzuin looked at Phyrecolin race Forefather in surprise. Phyrecolin race Forefather always had a bad temper. When he was angry, he wouldn't give face to anyone. However, Phyrecolin race Forefather was still a little afraid of Longzuin. There's no other way. The situation is stronger than us. That person has returned and defeated those existences on the culmination, Snow Mountain. Do you think we can still fight against that person? Phyrecolin race Forefather said helplessly. In the big tent, none of the demon clan experts spoke, and the big tent suddenly became quiet. Phyrecolin Old Ancestor spoke the truth. Now that that person had returned, who dared to provoke him? Then let's surrender. Unexpectedly, Longzuin also had thoughts of surrendering to Gu Fei. All the demon clan experts in the main hall were dumbfounded. However, at this moment, the mountain where the demon army was located suddenly changed. Countless flowers and trees instantly withered and turned into dust that scattered on the ground. Even the grass turned into sand at a speed visible to the naked eye. The living beings in the area where the demon clan army was located were not spared either. They were all contaminated by the death chi and directly turned into skeletons. Death chi. Inside the tent, Longzun's face suddenly changed. At this time, the demon clan army had already been alerted. All the demon clan experts were incomparably shocked because they were actually surrounded by a desert. Then the whole desert shook violently, as if a peerless evil spirit had been awakened and wanted to rush out from under the desert. An evil and mysterious force shrouded the desert. Boundless fiendish chi rushed out from the evil desert, and countless figures could be vaguely seen in the desert. Bone Emperor? Longzuin thought of a person. Among the Emperor Realm experts under Gu Fei, only Bone Emperor could have such a means. His guess was right. It was Bone Emperor who had turned a mountain into a desert. The wind and clouds within a radius of hundreds of miles changed color, and the sun and moon lost their light. Even under the scorching sun at noon, the desert was still gray, and the sunlight seemed to be unable to penetrate it. The surrounding demon clan experts looked at this scene in shock. Bone Emperor, this guy, Huang Fuzun, looked at the desert that suddenly appeared and couldn't help but frown. Bone Emperor couldn't help but make a move. Bone Sovereign and his army of death were hidden in this desert. Waves of terrifying energy fluctuations and muffled thunders could be heard coming from the depths of this desert. The fiendish chi and the powerful death chi made people's hearts palpitate. The death chi in the desert of death was so mighty that it almost reached the sky. Most of the experts at the edge of the desert were from southern barbarian. These experts had no choice but to retreat far away. The death chi that erupted from Bone Emperor was extremely powerful. It was the death chi. Once stained by it, even an Emperor realm expert would be in trouble. Huang Fuzun had never been on good terms with Bone Emperor. Now that Bone Emperor had made a move, he had no choice but to retreat with his army. Everyone was watching the show, wanting to know what the hell Bone Emperor was up to. However, to everyone's surprise, Bone Emperor didn't make a move after turning the area into a strange desert. As time passed, the sky gradually darkened. Blood-colored mist rose from the surface of the evil desert, and the battle cries of thousands of soldiers and horses could be heard faintly. Blood-colored mist lingered in the air, and blurry human figures could be seen flashing in the sky. Blood-colored lightning flashed continuously in the depths of the desert of death. At this time, skeletons holding rusty ancient weapons and ancient corpses shrouded in death chi crawled out of the desert one after another. Human figures flickered in the blood-colored mist, then converged on the eastern barbarian demon race army trapped in the desert. Kill! The eastern barbarian demon race army also made a move at this time. Powerful demonic energy rippled in all directions, smashing large numbers of skeletons into pieces. Very soon, the ground was covered with a layer of broken bone fragments. Earth-shaking battle cries rang out from the sea of death. Everyone outside the desert felt their scalp go numb, chills run down their spines, and goosebumps rise all over their bodies. The Ghost Emperor of the North Ruins truly lived up to his reputation. Blood-colored clouds roiled in the desert of death, and blood-colored lightning flashed continuously. A boundless fiendish aura emanated from it, and it was so terrifying that even an ordinary Emperor Realm expert was stunned by it. All the strange phenomena of death appeared in the desert of death created by the Bone Emperor. The sun was still high in the sky, and the sky was clear. On the other hand, the desert of death was filled with death chi and chilly wind. It was like two different worlds. Everything that was happening in the desert of death was so strange. Everyone watching the show outside the desert of death was distracted by the desert of death in front of them. No one expected that the Bone Emperor would attack the eastern barbarian demon race at this time. Gu Fei, who was far away in the southern barbarian imperial city, also sensed the scene happening in the mountain ridge. The Bone Emperor of the North Ruins was a little eager to make a contribution. Chapter 5564. The North Ruins was the place where the aura of death gathered in the Void Realm. The Bone Emperor was the second emperor after the North Ruins Ghost Emperor. The North Ruins Ghost Emperor, on the other hand, was a fence-sitter. He would submit to whoever was stronger. In the past few thousand years, the North Ruins Ghost Emperor had even become an emperor. However, he was stopped by the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor when he led the army of the Ghost race to invade the southern barbarian land. After a great battle, the Ghost Emperor was killed by the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor. Naturally, the Ghost Army under the command of the North Ruins Ghost Emperor was completely annihilated by the West Sea Old Dragon Army. There was only one emperor in the North Ruins right now, and that was the Bone Emperor. After the North Ruins Ghost Emperor's death, the entire North Ruins naturally became the Bone Emperor's domain. After the North Ruins Ghost Emperor's death, the Bone Emperor immediately sent his trusted subordinates into the North Ruins to subjugate the ghost race experts the North Ruins Ghost Emperor had left behind. Moreover, things were going very smoothly. At this time, the Bone Emperor suddenly attacked the Eastern Wastelands dragon race, who were trapped in the southern barbarian mountain range, because he wanted to make a contribution and become the true master of the North Ruins. However, it was not an easy task to become the true master of the North Ruins. The first step was to obtain Gu Fei's approval. If Gu Fei didn't allow him to become the master of the North Ruins, then the Bone Emperor would never be able to sit on the throne. If he wanted Gu Fei to let him become the master of the North Ruins, he had to make a contribution in front of Gu Fei and perform well. The Bone Emperor's sand transformation divine art was indeed shocking. He turned the area within a few hundred miles of the eastern wastelands demon race's encampment into a desert in an instant. He had created a desert in the middle of the southern barbarian mountain range. This was what made an Emperor Realm cultivator so awesome. The destructive power of an Emperor Realm cultivator was truly astonishing. At this time, the center of the desert was filled with dust and earth-shattering battle cries. Powerful demonic energy and the power of death were surging mightily as countless dead beings pounced towards the demon army like a tidal wave. The 5 great demon races of the eastern wastelands formed a battle formation to stop the undead army. Long Xuan looked coldly at the army of dead spirits charging towards him and sneered. In the next moment, he raised his right hand, and a Dao artifact immediately shot into the sky from his hand, hovering above the army of the demon race. Buzz! The Dao treasure shook violently. In the next moment, a ball of divine light descended from the sky and enveloped the entire demon army, isolating the countless dead spirits outside the light shield. However, the countless specters were still charging over in a frenzy. However, all of them collided with the divine light and were blasted away. The dead spirits that were blasted away crawled up from the ground and continued to charge towards the demon race army. The demons still have some confidence. Gu Fei, who was far away in the southern barbaric imperial city, couldn't help but nod when he sensed this scene. That Dao artifact was a fist-sized demon ball. A powerful demonic force erupted from the demonic sphere, turning into a light barrier that protected the demonic army. How could the dead spirits break through the light barrier that protected the demonic army with a half-step infinite realm Dao artifact? The Eastern Wastelands demon race had such a Dao artifact because it was the work of the ancestor of all demons. The ancestor of all demons had once followed sacred Lord Sutian, and he was also an infinite realm cultivator. Moreover, he was a blacksmith. However, even a blacksmith like him would find it difficult to refine an infinite realm Dao artifact. Currently, the ancestor of all demons was in a deep slumber in the ancestral grounds of the demon race. He had already made it clear that he would no longer care about the Eastern Wastelands demon race. It would be very difficult for him to take action. Moreover, the ancestor of all demons had been tortured by Gu Fei in the past. How would he dare to cause trouble for Gu Fei's people? The ancestor of all demons had left behind quite a number of Dao artifacts. Long Xuan was the strongest among the 5 great demon races of the Eastern Wastelands. It was not surprising that he had obtained the 10,000 Demon Pearl. Once the 10,000 Demon Pearl appeared, the countless dead spirits created by the Bone King could no longer pose a threat to the demon army. The Bone King, who was hiding in the Desert of Death, was dumbfounded. How was he supposed to fight? Initially, he wanted to make a contribution in front of Gu Fei, but now it seemed that he could not make a contribution so easily. However, the Bone King was in a difficult position. If he stopped now, he would be laughed at by the forces of the southern barbarians. Most importantly, he, the Bone King, could not lose face in front of Gu Fei. I'll go all out. At worst, I'll die. If I win, I'll be the lord of the North Ruins. The Bone King gritted his teeth when he thought of this. In the next moment, an even stronger force of death erupted from his body. The countless dead spirits retreated like a superpower. In just a short while, there was not a single dead spirit left in the Desert of Death. Rumble! The entire Desert of Death shook violently. Sand and dust rose to the sky, turning into a monstrous sandstorm that swept towards the demon army. Countless experts who were watching the battle were shocked to the extreme when they saw this shocking scene. This Bone King was really powerful. He was usually so obedient, but it turned out that he had been pretending to be weak all along. Boom! With a loud bang, The sandstorm that came from all directions completely drowned the entire demon army. The demon race is finished? Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. The endless yellow sand actually moved, completely burying the place where the demon clan army was in the endless yellow sand. What's going on? How can the demon race be so weak? Isn't the dragon Zune very powerful? Everyone was dumbfounded, especially the 4 great god generals under Gu Fei. They found it even more difficult to accept this. One should know that the dragon Zune had once fought with the leader of the 4 great god generals. The dragon Zune was an existence of the transcendent emperor realm in the void realm. Wu Jixian was also a transcendent emperor realm expert. The Bone King was just an emperor realm expert. How could he defeat the dragon Zune? This was also the reason why the Bone King had been hiding in the dark. If the dragon Zune locked onto him with his divine sense, he would be dead for sure. Soon, the entire desert of death calmed down. The demon army was buried under the desert. Trying to hide and wait for an opportunity, Gu Fei, who was in the southern barbarian imperial city, immediately knew why the dragon Zune would do this. One had to admit that the dragon Zune was really an ambitious and ruthless person, with the protection of a half-step, limitless Tao artifact. How could the Bone King annihilate the dragon army with his own strength? Even the Bone King found it hard to believe. However, no one could sense the existence of any demonic qi. Was the Eastern Barren Demon Army really buried in the desert of death? No way, this daddy's luck is so good. The Bone King appeared in the desert of death as if he was in a dream. The Bone King. Sai. Chapter 55-65. The Eastern Wilderness Demon Race Army that invaded Southern Wilderness was actually buried under the endless yellow sand by Bone Emperor. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded and in disbelief. The Eastern Wilderness Demon Race was not to be trifled with. Moreover, there was a Supreme Emperor Realm Longzuin in the Eastern Wilderness Demon Race. That was a Supreme Emperor Realm expert, not a weakling. Even if Wu Jixian wanted to defeat Longzuin, it would not be easy, let alone Bone Emperor. Boss, how is this possible? In the distant sky, Wu Jixian, one of the 4 generals of Hongtian who had been watching the battle, said to Wu Jixian, "It's impossible." Wu Jixian was very calm. Then Wu Jixian wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Wu Jixian. "Let's just wait and see." Wu Jixian looked at the hundreds of miles of yellow sand in front of him with a profound look in his eyes. Wu Jixian and the others did not say anything else. At this time, the surrounding spectators could not understand how Bone Emperor could bury the entire Eastern Wilderness Demon Race Army. Many people retreated after seeing the result of the battle. After all, there were still things to be dealt with in Southern Wilderness Imperial City. Xiao Ye and Long Xiaozhou were gathering experts from all over Southern Wilderness. After today, in the entire Southern Wilderness, only Gu Fei's family would dominate. Then it would be the entire Void Realm. There was no other way. Gu Fei's strength did not allow him to continue hiding in Southern Wilderness because he had subdued the limitless Demon Lord and tortured the incarnation of Sacred Lord Su Tian. After that, he fought with the limitless Sword Lord and scared the Snow Demon into hiding in the depths of Culmination, Snow Mountain. He had already defeated the strongest guys in the entire Void Realm. Who would dare to provoke him? No one wanted to court death. The battle between Bone Emperor and the Eastern Wilderness Demon Race seemed to have come to an end. The surrounding spectators also gradually dispersed. Swoosh! High up in the sky, a divine light suddenly appeared, piercing the night sky and flying directly towards Southern Wilderness Imperial City. That is, Wu Jixian raised his head and saw the divine light flash in the distant sky. Her Highness has taken away the primal chaos seal. Limitless Demon, Lord said in surprise. Xiao, you took away the limitless chaos seal, which meant that the seal of the entire area was lifted and all the creatures inside could leave the Southern Wilderness. Boom! At this moment, a loud noise completely broke the silence in the mountain ridge. The hundreds of miles of death desert created by the Bone Sovereign directly exploded. Yellow sand rose high into the sky, and endless sandstorms swept out in all directions, forming a terrifying sandstorm. Wherever the sandstorm passed, it destroyed everything. Countless mountains and forests were directly turned into dust. All the experts in the region were alarmed. As expected, when Wu Jixin saw this, his eyes immediately emitted 2 resplendent rays of light. He was about to make his move. Let them be. Right at this moment, Gu Fei's voice rang out in Wu Jixin's mind. Yes, master. Wu Jixin, who was about to make a move, immediately stopped. A ball of demonic light directly shot up from the yellow sand that filled the sky, instantly breaking through the horizon and disappearing. There's indeed a trap. Wu Jixin, unbounded warrior, and the others were both shocked and furious. This Long Zuin actually did this. But looking at Boss's expression, it seemed like he had already guessed it but didn't do anything. Boss, why did you? Wu Jixin said. Wu Jixin waved his hand and said, Master means that we should go back. After saying this, Wu Jixin directly turned around and took a step in the direction of the southern royal city, directly disappearing into the void at an extremely fast speed. Wu Jixin and the others looked at each other and quickly chased after him. The Eastern Wilderness Demon race actually fled. At this time, Bone Sovereign was stunned. Haha, in the end, all our efforts were in vain. Huangfu Zun laughed loudly. You, Bone Sovereign, was shocked, angry, and unwilling. In fact, he originally didn't want to destroy the Eastern Wilderness Demon race's 5 allied forces. He just wanted to damage the allied forces as much as possible. However, he made such a big movement, did not hesitate to turn the surrounding hundreds of miles into the Death Desert, and even mobilize the undead army. However, what Bone Sovereign didn't expect was that his attack didn't cause much damage to the Eastern Wilderness Demon race's allied forces. Instead, it was his efforts that were in vain, and he was even mocked by Huangfu Zun. Huangfu Zun laughed loudly and left. Bone Sovereign was very helpless and could only return to the southern royal city. All the forces also dispersed. The Eastern Wilderness Demon race's allied forces fled back to the Eastern Wilderness. At this time, the southern royal city was brightly lit and incomparably lively. In a secret room in the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion, the Pavilion Master and a group of senior members of the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion were secretly discussing something. Now that Gu Fei is so strong, I'm afraid that even Master may not be able to defeat him. An Emperor Realm Elder of the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion said worriedly. The Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion was actually targeted by Gu Fei, which was absolutely not a good thing for them. Although Gu Fei had not taken any action against the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion, no one knew when this Lord of Southern Man would attack them. TSK, Master doesn't even put Gu Fei in his eyes. An elder of the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion, who was like a 7 or 8-year-old child, said disdainfully. This person was one of the 5 Emperor Realm experts of the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion. Undead evil child. What do you know, old man? Another tall and burly man who was sitting on the seat like a small mountain said disapprovingly, Mountain Venerable, are you itching for a beating again? Are you asking for a beating? Undead evil child stared at the burly man and sneered. Humph, do you think I'm afraid of you? Why don't we spar on the dueling platform? The burly man named Mountain Venerable stared fiercely at Undead Evil Child. Let's do it. Undead Evil Child stood up abruptly, and a cold, murderous aura burst out from his body. Enough! The Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion Master glanced at the two of them and said in a deep voice, At this time, are you still fighting among yourselves? The Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion Master said coldly. Seeing that the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion Master had spoken, Undead Evil Child and Mountain Venerable immediately shut up. In the Void Realm, the strong were respected. Whether it was Evil Child or Mountain Venerable, they were only Emperor Realm experts, while the Emperor Ju Huang Pavilion Master was a supreme Emperor Realm existence. To put it bluntly, the Emperor Juhuang Pavilion Master could directly kill Mountain Venerable and Evil Child with a slap. Master is coming soon, and Gu Fei's good days are coming to an end. You guys better behave yourselves during this period. If anyone dares to cause trouble, don't blame me for being merciless. The Emperor Juhuang Pavilion Master glanced at everyone present and said coldly, "Yes, we will obey the Pavilion Master's order." The senior members of the Emperor Juhuang Pavilion immediately obeyed the order with solemn expressions. At this time, Gu Fei was planning how to bring the limitless Demon Lord, Saint Master Void Sky, and the other infinite primes back to the Flame Planet. Chapter 5566. The upper echelons of Emperor Gathering Pavilion all became obedient. They quietly waited for the arrival of their master, the Emperor. In their eyes, the Emperor was the true boss of the Void Realm. Although Gu Fei was powerful and could sweep through the entire Void Realm, he was still nothing compared to the Emperor in the eyes of the people of Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Of course, who was stronger between Gu Fei and the Emperor would only be known after the two fought. However, Gu Fei did not know that he was being targeted. At this time, Holy Lord Chaotic Heaven had already returned to the southern barbarian imperial city. At the peak of the southern barbarian imperial city, two figures stood facing the sun. "Master, shall we begin?" Holy Lord Chaotic Heaven looked at the black-robed youth with a complicated expression. "Let's begin. What are you waiting for?" Gu Fei looked at the rising sun and said indifferently, "But the one on the snow mountain is hiding this." Holy Lord Chaotic Heaven wanted to say something, but stopped. "All we have to do is hide and not come out?" Gu Fei smiled. The everlasting snow demon in the culmination snow mountain thinks she can hide just because she has the everlasting Tao treasure, the Ice Soul Divine Pearl? You're looking down on me, Gu Fei. Holy Lord Void Sky's avatar was also captured by Yen Wu. Yen Wu was a supreme being formed by the world's will of the flame world. Her cultivation was enough to fight against Gu Fei. How could Holy Lord Void Sky's avatar be a match for her? Gu Fei's plan began. He had left a super teleportation formation on the Flame Star. As long as he built a super teleportation formation on the Void Realm, they could travel between the Flame Star and the Void Realm at will. Gu Fei wanted to gather all the everlasting primes in the Void Realm. It was impossible for the everlasting snow demon to hide in the culmination, Snow Mountain. Holy Lord Chaotic Heaven began to build a super teleportation formation on the southern barbarian imperial city. However, it was not easy to build a super teleportation formation that could teleport across realms. It required a large amount of divine materials. This was nothing to Gu Fei because he himself had gathered countless divine materials. This time, the limitless Demon Lord, the limitless Fire Spirit, and the world-suppressing Item Soul were all pulled over by Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven to build the teleportation formation. They were all infinite primes. Therefore, the construction of this super teleportation portal would be much faster than the one on the Flame Star. Within a few days, a huge platform appeared in the southern barbaric imperial city. This was an array platform constructed with violet gold divine stone. Even in the Void Realm, the purple gold divine stone was considered a rare divine material. For an ordinary cultivator, obtaining a fist-sized piece was already very impressive. If this kind of divine stone was added during the refining process, it would raise the quality of the Tao artifact by one level. Using so many violet gold divine rock to build an array platform caused the various powers within the southern barbaric imperial city to be incomparably shocked. Perhaps only Gu Fei could take out such a large amount of violet gold divine rock. In fact, this was only because Xiaoyi spread the news that Gu Fei needed violet gold divine stones to the outside world. Then the major forces in the southern barbaric imperial city, and even the forces in the entire Void Realm, eagerly sent their collections of violet gold divine stones to the city Lord's Mansion. Of course, to build a transrealm super teleportation formation, it was not enough to rely on the violet gold divine stones collected by the various forces in the Void Realm. If one were to say who had the most collection of divine materials, it would probably be Yan Wu. Even the divine materials collected by Gu Fei could not compare to Yan Wu, because Yan Wu was once the ruler of the flame world. All the cultivation resources in the entire flame world were at her disposal. With Yan Wu around, let alone a single super teleportation formation platform, Yan Wu could even provide the materials needed to build 10 super teleportation formation platforms. Seeing the super teleportation formation platform, Gu Fei handed it over to the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven because this guy's cultivation in Formation Dao was too impressive. However, no matter how impressive the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven's cultivation in Formation Dao was, it was impossible for him to build a super teleportation formation platform in one go. Inscribing formation patterns could not be rushed. Once there was a wrong formation pattern, the entire formation platform would be crippled. Therefore, the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven was very careful. However, with infinite primes like the Limitless Demon Lord and the Limitless Fire Spirit helping him build this super teleportation formation platform, it saved him a lot of trouble. What is Gu Fei trying to do? At the top of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, the Pavilion Master and the upper echelons of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion looked at the countless busy figures on the square. They could not help but be curious. Who knows what he is doing? Mountain Venerable said disapprovingly, "Why is the Master not here yet?" The unold evil child also said, "What's the rush?" The Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion frowned. In fact, she was also anxious. Her master had not appeared yet. Could there be something wrong? "Why? Do you want to see me?" At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded behind them. "What?" The people of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion were shocked. Someone had appeared behind them, without them noticing at all. However, when they saw this person, they immediately knelt down and kowtowed. "Greetings, Master." The voice of the Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion trembled. The person behind the Imperial Gathering Pavilion was very powerful. He had been hiding for countless years and did not show his face. Everything he did was done in secret. This was the scariest part about the Emperor. Throughout the years, the Emperor had secretly destroyed countless forces. Even Sacred Lord Su Tian and the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven had been schemed against by the Emperor. In the eyes of the Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, there was no one in this world that her master did not dare to touch. "Rise." The Emperor waved his hand indifferently. "Yes, Master." The Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion and the others immediately stood up and made way for the Emperor. The Emperor walked forward. Why is Gu Fei building a teleportation array platform? With the Emperor's level of cultivation, he could tell at a glance what the half-built platform in front of him was for. Teleportation array platform? The Pavilion Master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion and the others were taken aback. Gu Fei was actually building a teleportation array platform. Hee, I want to see what Gu Fei wants to do. The Emperor suddenly revealed a trace of an evil smile. At the moment when the Emperor appeared in the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, in the back garden of the Southern Barbarian Palace, Gu Fei, who was sitting under a divine tree, suddenly opened his eyes. This guy has finally shown his face. Gu Fei smiled and closed his eyes again. A gust of wind blew, and flowers fell from the sky. In the pavilion, in the distance, a figure stood. She looked at the person under the divine tree with a helpless look. She was Hongzue. On a roof further away, there was another girl in white. This Hongzue actually likes my master? Xiao Yu saw this scene and couldn't help but think. Chapter 55-67. Building a teleportation array platform was a very boring and tasteless thing to begin with. This was because every brick on the teleportation array platform had to be engraved with array patterns, and there couldn't be any mistakes. It should be known that Divine Lord Chaotic Heaven was building a super teleportation array platform. Once there was a problem during the teleportation, the consequences would be very serious. Just like how Gu Fei had been forced by Sacred Master, Void Sky's incarnation, and the Limitless Demon Lord to step onto the Sky Race's Ancestral Lands teleportation array platform. He had directly crashed into the Limitless Realms barrier during the teleportation. The consequence of this was that Gu Fei's body and soul were almost destroyed. If he hadn't cultivated the Ascension secret technique, he would really be dead. At that time, Gu Fei was already an infinite prime, and even he was almost destroyed. One could imagine how terrible the consequences would be if there was a problem during the super teleportation. This was related to his life, so Divine Lord Chaotic Heaven naturally didn't dare to be careless. He had a forbidden technique planted on him by Gu Fei. Once Gu Fei was finished, he would also be buried with him. He didn't want to be buried with Gu Fei. Divine Lord Chaotic Heaven had been imprisoned by Divine Lord Void Sky for countless years, and Divine Lord Void Sky even devoured his vitality from time to time. How could he not take revenge? Therefore, at this time, Divine Lord Chaotic Heaven was more serious than anyone else in building this super teleportation array platform. At this time, the Emperor also took action. He was the same as Gu Fei. Although he was a super antique, he maintained the appearance of a young man. Gu Fei liked to wear black, but the Emperor liked to wear white. A white-robed young man waving a folding fan was sitting by the window in a tea house outside the square. He ordered a pot of this place's enlightenment tea and slowly tasted it. When cultivators cultivated, they paid attention to enlightenment. Once enlightenment was achieved, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Therefore, in the streets and alleys of the southern barbarian imperial city, there were tea houses with enlightenment tea hanging everywhere. Of course, this couldn't be the real enlightenment tea. It was called enlightenment tea, but it was actually just ordinary spirit tea. Enlightenment tea was just a gimmick. However, if ordinary people drank spirit tea often, it could also have the effect of being immune to 100 diseases and prolonging their lives. However, how could ordinary people drink spiritual tea? Those who could open tea houses and sell spirit tea were naturally cultivators, and cultivators viewed gold and silver as dirt. In the eyes of cultivators, there were only spirit stones, spirit jades, spirit crystals, or divine stones, divine jades, and other things that contain the spiritual energy of the world. These were the coins that circulated among cultivators. The white-robed youth was none other than the Emperor. He drank the real enlightenment tea like it was water, so he naturally drank this ordinary spirit tea like it was water. The Emperor enjoyed this kind of peaceful life very much. Mingling with ordinary people was a kind of pleasure for him. After living for so many years, he had to find some fun no matter what. If there were no mortals in this world, there would be a lot less fun. The Emperor was secretly protecting the Void Realm. His purpose was actually very simple. He did not want the Void Realm to be destroyed. He did not want his life to become boring. He did not release his spiritual will to sense his surroundings. In fact, he even sealed a portion of his cultivation. "Waiter, more tea, please." The Emperor noticed that there was no more water in the teapot, so he spoke to a tea boy who was passing by. "Coming." The tea boy replied and walked over with the tea. Then he filled the empty teapot in front of the Emperor. "Sir, please enjoy," the tea boy said with a smile. Then he turned around and walked away. The tea boy's face suddenly revealed a trace of a strange smile. The Emperor only needed to spend 1 spirit stone, and he could drink spirit tea here for an entire day. However, for ordinary people, spirit stones were something that could not be bought with money. Why is this tea a little different from the one I drank earlier? After drinking a cup of tea, the Emperor could not help but frown. He put down the cup and filled it up again before slowly drinking it. It really does taste a little different. The Emperor could not help but feel a little unhappy. These people actually changed the tea without permission? However, the tea now seemed to contain more spiritual energy than the one he drank earlier. Forget it! The Emperor did not care about the density of spiritual energy in the tea anyway. Gulp! After drinking a few cups of tea, the Emperor could only feel his stomach churning. What's going on? The emperor was shocked with his level of cultivation. Even if he had eaten something extremely poisonous, there shouldn't have been anything wrong with his stomach. Toilet. The emperor did not care so much. If he did not find a toilet soon, he would shit his pants. Drinking tea until he had diarrhea? How could this be? He desperately endured and walked towards the toilet in the tea house. When he came to the toilet, he saw that there was someone inside. F***CK. The emperor immediately became anxious. The most tragic thing in the world was not being able to find a toilet when having diarrhea. At this time, his stomach rumbled again. He could not hold it in any longer. Swoosh! The emperor gritted his teeth and directly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the forest outside the Nanman imperial city. After an hour, the emperor walked out of the forest with a pale face and trembling legs. Who is it? Who the hell is it? The emperor was angry. Someone actually plotted against him. It was really hateful. Someone actually did something to his tea, causing him to have diarrhea for an hour. He was the dignified emperor. When had he ever been so embarrassed? Gulp! The emperor's stomach rumbled again. The emperor was already on the verge of going crazy. He had no choice but to turn back into the forest and continue to have diarrhea. Ha ha! A loud laughter sounded, and a figure appeared outside the forest where the emperor was. Master, what did you put in this guy's teapot? A pleasant voice sounded. It's nothing much. It's just a pill called 1,000 Miles Drain Pill. Gufei smiled. 1,000 Miles Drain Pill? Is there such a pill in the Void Realm? Xiaoya asked. Look at the one in the forest. Do you think there is? Gufei felt great. All of you go to hell. The emperor in the forest was so angry that he almost went crazy. An extremely violent force burst out from the forest. Wherever this force passed, everything was crushed. The 1,000 Miles Drain Pill that Gufei made was really powerful. Even the emperor, who was an infinite realm expert, had diarrhea to the point that he almost lost his life. Haha, are you satisfied with your diarrhea? Gufei laughed and used his hand as a blade. With a slash, he directly split the mighty destructive force in half. The terrifying destructive force swept past Gufei and Xiaoya. You are Gufei. A figure walked out from the smoke and dust that filled the sky. His powerful aura shook the heavens and the earth. Which emperor are you? Chapter 55-68. No one would have thought that Gufei would actually play a prank on the emperor. Gufei actually pretended to be a tea boy and did something to the emperor's tea. He refined a type of 1,000 miles in one drain pill and melted this pill into the tea. The emperor drank the spiked tea. Even if he was an infinite prime, he would still fall for it. Gufei was actually using the emperor to test the medicine. He didn't know how effective the 1,000-mile diarrhea pill was, but now that he saw the emperor's pale face with diarrhea and looked exhausted, he knew that the medicinal effect of the pill he refined was absolutely explosive. Master, this guy seems to be very angry. Xiao, you hid behind Gufei and looked at the white-robed youth in front of her. Haha, if you were the one who fell for it, would you be angry? Gufei laughed. Gufei, you are an infinite prime, an expert. How could you be so despicable to drug me? The emperor stared at Gufei, his eyes red. Sigh, it's just for fun. Don't tell me you can't afford it. Gufei said while trying to hold back his laughter. Fun. The emperor was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. This guy made him have diarrhea until his legs were weak, and this was just for fun? This guy was trying to kill him. Gulp. The emperor was about to make a move, but as soon as he moved, his stomach rumbled again. In the next moment, the emperor's figure disappeared from where he was. He was looking for another place to take his diarrhea. Ha! Gufei and Xiao Ya's laughter echoed in the mountains. Master, you are too bad. Xiao Ya said with a smile. Too bad? It seems a bit too much, haha. Gufei laughed again. Your Majesty, are you done? Gufei said loudly. Just you wait. Sigh. The emperor's angry roar came from the mountains in the distance. After taking so long, you are still full of energy. I can't help but admire you, Gu Fei said. You. The emperor, who was hiding in the forest and suffering from diarrhea, was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this moment, the emperor realized that he had gravely underestimated this Gu Fei. This guy was despicable and shameless to the extreme. This guy was simply an unscrupulous bastard. Your Majesty, how about I add some more ingredients for you? Gu Fei suddenly shouted. What do you want? The emperor, who was crouching in the forest, looked up and saw several fist-sized round objects falling from the sky around him. Boom! 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 The black balls around the emperor suddenly exploded, causing dirt to fly everywhere. The emperor's figure was immediately submerged in the dust of the explosion. Master, what did you throw? Outside the forest, Xiaoya asked. It's nothing, just a few divine lightnings of heaven. Gu Fei said proudly. What? Xiaoya's mouth was wide open when she heard this. At this moment, the dust in the forest dissipated. The emperor was still sitting on the ground. The divine lightnings of heaven could not hurt him at all, but the explosion had torn his clothes to shreds. His face was black, and his hair was standing on end. Mad, the emperor had finally gone completely mad. Roar! The emperor roared. In the next moment, his body suddenly emitted an endless amount of light. His whole body looked like it was on fire. He was using all his strength to force out the power of the 1,000-mile torrent pill from his body. This guy is going crazy. After saying that, Gu Fei waved his right hand, and Xiaoya immediately disappeared into the void. When Xiaoya reappeared, she was already hundreds of millions of miles away. A large seal floated above Xiaoya's head. Strands of chaotic energy descended from the seal, enveloping her. Even if he sent Xiaoya billions of miles away, it would still not be safe. Gu Fei needed to use the power of the seal to protect Xiaoya. The emperor ferociously forced out the medicinal power of the 1,000-mile torrent pill from his body and immediately charged towards Gu Fei. To the emperor, this was a great humiliation. His eyes were red, and he wanted to fight Gu Fei to the death. Humph! Gu Fei went up to meet him. Boom! With a loud bang, the two figures instantly collided together. Rumble! A circle of dust rose up from the ground around the two of them. This circle of dust swept out in all directions, and wherever it passed, everything was crushed. Boom! Bam! Two silhouettes flashed in the void at high speed, producing an incomparably deep and shocking sound. In the void billions of miles away, Xiaoya, who was under the protection of the seal, could not help but be shocked when she saw this scene. She stared at the place where the battle was taking place. However, she realized that she could not see the silhouettes of her master and that guy. Even with Xiaoya's cultivation, she could not see the figures of the two experts moving at high speed. This made Xiaoya dumbfounded. She was looking at the air. In reality, Xiaoya was only at the half-step emperor realm. In front of Gu Fei and the emperor, her cultivation was too low. She could not see them at all. Gu Fei's presence? In the southern barbarian imperial city, the holy master of the chaotic heavens, the limitless demon lord, and the limitless fire spirit, who were building a super teleportation array platform, had sensed the presence of Gu Fei and the emperor at the instant. Who is the other guy? This was the first time the emperor's presence had appeared. Holy master of chaotic heaven and the others were very shocked. There was an infinite prime hidden in the void realm. How is this possible? The void realm is really full of hidden dragons. High up in the sky, a figure sitting cross-legged in the void suddenly opened her eyes. She was Yen Wu. Yen Wu used to be the ruler of the flame world. She was a supreme being born from the will of the world. She could also sense the existence of the will of the world here. The will of the world was the so-called heavenly law. However, the will of the world in the void realm was far from being able to give birth to life. If she devoured the will of the world here and replaced it, wouldn't she become the ruler of this world? However, if that was the case, she would be bound to this world and would not be able to leave. Yan Wu had already experienced the joy of freedom. She definitely did not want to be bound to a place and unable to leave. She wanted to live freely. Moreover, she now knew a very good place to go. It was the limitless realm. It's him. At this time, Holy Master Void Sky's incarnation, who was standing behind Yan Wu like a servant, suddenly exclaimed, "Do you know who is fighting Gu Fei?" Yan Wu asked curiously. The fact that that person was able to fight Gu Fei was enough to prove his strength. Right now, Gu Fei was the strongest existence in the Void Realm. How could someone who dared to challenge Gu Fei be a weakling? All the infinite primes in the Void Realm were alarmed. Chapter 55-69. The Emperor was a mysterious infinite prime who had once lived in the same era as Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Chaotic Heavens. However, he hid himself very well and kept a low profile. Even Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Chaotic Heavens hadn't discovered his existence. However, Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Chaotic Heavens were infinite primes from the everlasting realm. No matter how well the Emperor hid himself, he was still discovered by them. However, Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Chaotic Heavens had never succeeded in catching this mysterious fellow. Furthermore, after the Emperor was discovered by Sacred Master Void Sky and the others, he became even more careful and hid himself even deeper. It's him, the mysterious person who has existed for countless years. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, who was standing behind Yan Wu, said in shock. She didn't think that this mysterious person would appear again after countless years and fight with Gu Fei. Just who was that person? Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was also very curious. Looks like you don't know that person's background either. Yan Wu was slightly disappointed. However, since this guy had existed since countless years ago, he was definitely a supreme antique and an infinite prime at that. In reality, once one reached the infinite prime realm, they would be able to continue living as long as there were no accidents. Time was meaningless to infinite primes. That person is very mysterious and has only appeared twice. This subordinate only sensed his aura, but I don't even know what he looks like. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone said awkwardly. He had been defeated by Yan Wu so badly that he had no choice but to admit defeat. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone really didn't want to die. Yan Wu was being born from the will of heaven and earth. She wasn't as easy to deal with as Gu Fei. If Sacred Master Void Sky's clone didn't admit defeat, she would definitely kill him. This was because Yan Wu didn't have any concerns. Gu Fei was more or less worried because he wanted to gather the power of all the infinite primes to break open the barrier of the everlasting realm. Gu Fei didn't even do anything to the limitless demon lord. Hearing this, Yan Wu was speechless. She had thought that she would be able to obtain some useful information from Holy Master Void Sky's clone. Who would have thought that this guy knew nothing? In this way, Yan Wu's curiosity was piqued. One must know that this fellow definitely had a motive for being able to hide for so many years. Furthermore, for this person to be able to hide for so long, it seemed that he was definitely plotting something big. At this moment, within the southern barbaric imperial city, at the peak of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, all the experts of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion were incomparably nervous because the battle between Gu Fei and the Emperor was extremely important to them. If the Emperor was defeated by Gu Fei, then their Imperial Gathering Pavilion would be finished. Even their master wasn't a match for Gu Fei. What else could they do? In the eyes of the Pavilion Master, as long as his master defeated Gu Fei, his master would be the most powerful existence in the Void Realm. Meanwhile, in the southern barbarian imperial city, the Chaotic Heaven Holy Master was still building his super teleportation array. This was because he was very confident in Gu Fei. In the Void Realm, no one could defeat Gu Fei. Up in the sky, Yan Wu had no intention of making a move. There was a very special relationship between Yan Wu and Gu Fei. because of the forbidden technique of life and death. Although they were two people, they shared the same life. If Gu Fei was killed by that mysterious fellow, then Yan Wu would also be directly destroyed. However, Yan Wu wasn't worried at all that Gu Fei would be killed. Rumble, the power of Gu Fei and the Emperor constantly collided. The entire void was shaking as if the world was about to be destroyed. Haha, no matter how crazy you are, you still can't do anything to me. Gu Fei laughed loudly. You bastard! The Emperor roared continuously and attacked crazily. Buzz! In the next moment, a sword cry resounded in the sky. Endless sword light erupted from the Emperor's body. In an instant, all directions were submerged by the sword light. This was an indiscriminate attack. Unimaginably sharp sword qi filled every inch of the void. In the face of the Emperor's trump card, Gu Fei had no way of dodging. However, Gu Fei's 9 secrets of immortal Tao wasn't to be trifled with. Gu Fei laughed heartily. Then his body suddenly became transparent, as if he had suddenly merged with the void around him. Countless sword light pierced through his transparent body in the blink of an eye. All that was left was ripples on his body. The terrifying sword light that the Emperor unleashed seemed to have pierced through the air. He sensed that his sword light hadn't touched anything at all. He didn't feel any force at all. How is this possible? Although the Emperor was completely driven mad by Gu Fei, he wasn't a fool. He was very shrewd and knew that his crazed appearance was more or less an act. This was because he could paralyze his opponent and take advantage of the moment when his opponent let his guard down to launch a sudden fatal attack. However, how could Gu Fei fall for this so easily? Gu Fei had gone from a puny cultivator to an infinite prime. No one could imagine what he had gone through. Right now, Gu Fei's battle experience was extremely rich. Furthermore, he would never underestimate his opponents. Against this Emperor, he would not dare to be careless. The Emperor obviously wouldn't let Gu Fei fall for his little tricks. Gu Fei was basically invincible at this moment. He directly approached the Emperor step by step. Damn it! The Emperor was both shocked and furious. Gu Fei was much more powerful and terrifying than he had imagined. The way of the sword? Then I'll play with you. Gu Fei pointed with his sword as he said that. In the next moment, the countless sword light in the air suddenly lost control of the Emperor. They quickly gathered towards Gu Fei, condensing into a pair of sword wings on Gu Fei's back. What? When the Emperor saw this, he was dumbfounded. How did this guy do it? He was actually able to control his own sword light. The magic that Gu Fei had displayed was too incredible. The 9 secrets of the immortal path were originally Gu Fei's secret. In the entire Void Realm, only 3 people, Gu Fei, Xiaoya, and Long Xiaozhou, had mastered this secret technique. Although the Emperor was experienced and knowledgeable, he had never seen this kind of secret technique before. Gu Fei cast the chaotic secret technique and directly controlled the Emperor's sword light. The sword wings on his back trembled, and countless sword lights immediately shot up into the sky from Gu Fei's back, heading towards the Emperor in front of him. Chapter 5570. Gu Fei's 9 secrets of the immortal way possessed unimaginable power. He'd actually taken control of the Emperor's sword light and used it to attack him. The other infinite primes were extremely shocked when they sensed this. After all, the person who dared to challenge Gu Fei was a powerful infinite prime. Gu Fei was actually able to use his opponent's ability to attack him. Even the infinite primes were shocked by what he'd done. Humph. The Emperor's gaze turned extremely cold as he faced the sword light. He extended his hands and pressed them against the sky. Bzzz. The space trembled, and a shield of light appeared above his head. The countless sword lights rained down from the sky on the Emperor's shield of light. There was a series of collisions, and all the sword lights that landed on the shield collapsed, turning into specks of light that were absorbed by the shield. Just like that, the Emperor's shield of light grew stronger and stronger. Gu Fei's eyes lit up when he saw this. This guy was an infinite prime after all. He did have some skill. In just a few seconds, the countless sword lights were all blocked by the shield of light above the emperor's head. They all disappeared. At that moment, the shield of light above the emperor's head became even tougher after absorbing the power of the sword lights. "Eat my fist," Gu Fei said as he raised his fist. A domineering aura immediately erupted from his body. He hadn't even thrown the punch, but the world had already lost its color. As the saying goes, once an expert makes a move, one will know whether or not he is an expert. The moment Gu Fei's fist aura appeared, the emperor's hair stood on end. He felt an unprecedented dangerous aura from Gu Fei's body. While the emperor was still in shock, Gu Fei had already thrown a punch at him. Rumble. Gu Fei threw a punch at the emperor. An entire world shook violently. An extremely terrifying fist force erupted from his fist. The emperor felt like the entire sky was crushing down on him. The emperor didn't dare to be careless and activated the light shield above his head with all his might. Boom! Gu Fei's fist was like a meteorite falling from the sky, directly smashing into the light shield above the emperor's head, causing an earth-shattering explosion. A ring of transparent spatial ripples spread out in all directions from where Gu Fei had struck the light shield, causing the void to tremble. This loud noise even spread to the southern barbaric imperial city. Countless living beings in the imperial city were terrified. This was a true battle between immortals, and mortals suffered. Of course, the southern barbarian imperial city had the protection of the boundless Grade City protecting array, so the battle between Gu Fei and the emperor would not affect the southern barbarian imperial city. However, the living beings outside the southern barbaric imperial city were miserable. Countless living beings were directly killed or injured by the powerful sound waves. Even Lilia, who was protected by the Wuji Chaos Seal, was shaken by the sound waves. Her ears were buzzing, and her vision turned black. If not for the protection of the limitless Chaos Seal, Xiaoyu would have been directly destroyed by the sound wave. "Haha, want to break my defense? Dream on." The emperor laughed. He attacked with all his strength and the power of the light shield sword. It actually blocked this shocking fist of Gu Fei. Above the light shield, Gu Fei's right fist was still pressed against it, and a series of ripples constantly spread out on the light shield. "This father will break your defense now." Gu Fei suddenly revealed a trace of an evil smile. Oh no! The emperor was shocked. At this moment, Gu Fei's right fist that was pressed against the light shield shook violently, and an even more powerful fist force directly erupted from his fist. Bam! A muffled sound, and before the emperor could react, the light shield above his head was directly smashed through by Gu Fei's fist. Bam! While the emperor was shocked, the fist that smashed through his light shield directly smashed into his face. Gu Fei's fist had intimate contact with the emperor's face. The emperor only felt that his vision went black, and he was directly sent flying. Gu Fei's attack succeeded, and he immediately chased after the emperor. His fists danced, and countless fist shadows directly landed on the emperor's body, and a dense sound of impact was heard. The emperor screamed in agony. Bam! Boom! Gu Fei's fist smashed into the emperor's face, and the emperor was dizzy, and very soon his head became like a pig's. Roar! The emperor roared, and a blazing ball of divine light exploded from his body, and the surrounding space was distorted. My fist is on fire. Gu Fei's fist smashed into the emperor's face, and his fist directly burned. The ball of divine light that exploded from the emperor's body was actually an extremely powerful type of sacred fire. He quickly waved his hand to extinguish the fire on his hand. At this moment, the sacred fire on the emperor's body suddenly exploded, and the light that it emitted was many times brighter than the god sun in the sky, and the entire world was illuminated. This guy, Gu Fei, immediately retreated, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the sky. The exploding sacred fire engulfed the afterimages that Gu Fei left behind. Actually, Gu Fei also knew how to play with fire, but every cultivator trained with different fire elemental powers. The emperor naturally used his own life flame of the way. The emperor's life flame of the way was at the extreme path level, and this type of life flame could burn everything in the world to ashes. Even Gu Fei did not want to be burned by the emperor's life flame of the way. At this time, an earth-shattering dragon roar was heard. The emperor's life flame that exploded from his body turned into a huge fire dragon. This fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it fiercely pounced towards Gu Fei. Everywhere the fire dragon passed, the space was burned and distorted, and pitch-black cracks appeared in the space. You're not the only one who knows how to play with fire. Gu Fei's hands moved in the air as he spoke, and the fire dragon that was pouncing towards him was actually moved by his power. It circled around his body and then pounced back towards the emperor. This kind of magic again. The emperor was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. This guy always used this move, reversing the emperor's killing move. This was like fighting himself. How could he beat Gu Fei like this? The emperor reached out with his right hand and grabbed at the fire dragon that was pouncing towards him. Bam! The fire dragon slammed into his hand and sent him flying. Fire dragon, come! Gu Fei waved his right hand towards the sky. In the next moment, the sky changed color, and the sun and moon lost their light. Streaks of fire descended from the sky, turning into flaming dragons that pounced towards the emperor, who was sent flying. What? The emperor was shocked to see this. This guy, Gu Fei, had not appeared for thousands of years, and now that he had appeared, his cultivation had broken through to the unparalleled realm. It was only then that the emperor sensed Gu Fei's level of cultivation. The unparalleled realm was not a level that just anyone could cultivate to. It should be known that there were countless cultivators in the universe, but there were very few cultivators who could cultivate to the immortal realm, let alone the unparalleled realm, which was many times stronger than the immortal realm. Moreover, after reaching the unparalleled realm, it was harder than reaching the heavens to increase one's cultivation by one level. The level of cultivation that Gu Fei had displayed had truly frightened the emperor. Little brother, you can't beat me. Gu Fei smiled evilly. Chapter 5571. The emperor had never imagined that he would be abused by Gu Fei. After all, he had been hiding for countless years. Even Sacred Master Su Tian and Sacred Master Chaotic Heaven had not been able to force him out of hiding. He had thought that he already knew Gu Fei very well. This was because he had been hiding in the dark for countless years, secretly watching the movements of the entire Void Realm and observing the rise and fall of the major forces in the Void Realm. The Emperor rarely interfered with the affairs of the Void Realm in the open. He had always been controlling everything in the dark, controlling the Void Realm in the form of a black hand. Therefore, aside from the few higher-ups in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, no one knew the Emperor's identity. No one in the entire Void Realm knew that there was such a powerful existence in the Void Realm. For countless years, the Emperor had been controlling everything in the dark. Now, however, the Emperor had no choice but to appear in the sight of the super experts in the Void Realm. He actually did not want to show himself, but he had no choice but to do so because he had encountered a difficult opponent. This opponent was even more unpredictable. This opponent had actually put laxatives in his tea, causing him to have diarrhea to the point where his legs were weak. He was a mighty infinite prime, yet someone had actually fed him a laxative. No one would believe him if he told others. If Emoing found out, wouldn't she laugh at him? The Emperor wanted to teach this guy, called Gu Fei, a lesson. However, reality told him that he was not the one teaching Gu Fei a lesson. Instead, he was the one being abused by Gu Fei. He had to admit that he really could not beat Gu Fei. This was because Gu Fei was actually an amazing person in the Infinite Prime Realm. The Emperor had cultivated for countless years, but he had only reached the intermediate stage of the Infinite Prime Realm. He did not know how long it would take for him to break through to the Infinite Prime Realm. At that moment, the Emperor was sent flying by the fire dragon that Gu Fei had sent back. At the same time, Gu Fei summoned countless fire dragons. These fire dragons descended from the sky and bombarded the emperor's body, turning the area where the emperor was into a sea of fire. The fire dragon that Gu Fei had summoned was also formed from a type of Dao fire. This Dao fire was as powerful and terrifying as the natal Dao fire cultivated by the emperor. The void that was enveloped by the sea of fire was distorted by the heat, and pitch-black spatial cracks appeared one after another. These space cracks disappeared immediately because the mirage had a strong regenerative ability. However, at the level of Gu Fei and the emperor, the power of heaven and earth in the mirage could no longer suppress them. If they wanted to break through the void, it would be as easy as flipping their hands. I didn't expect you to be so weak. I thought I met a good opponent. Gu Fei said with some disappointment. Damn it, a powerful spiritual fluctuation erupted from the sea of fire. A figure walked out of the sea of fire step by step. He was like a spirit in the flames. Although his body was surrounded by terrifying flames of the way, they could not hurt him at all. You've successfully angered me. The emperor, who had walked out of the sea of fire, stared at Gu Fei and smirked. A shocking, murderous aura spread from his body, and it seemed as if the sky and earth were about to freeze. Puffed, stop pretending. So what if I angered you? Gu Fei said nonchalantly. Gu Fei, your AB asterisk starred. The emperor was furious when he heard this. You only realize that now. Gu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest. He did not seem to care at all. In that case, I'll show you how powerful I am. As the emperor spoke, the sea of fire behind him began to boil. An endless amount of fire elemental power frantically gathered towards him. The towering flames turned into a huge figure. This was a figure that was several times larger than a mountain. It stood tall between heaven and earth, giving off an endless sense of oppression. When Gu Fei saw this flaming figure, he could not help but be moved. This guy had some skills after all. Gu Fei did not dare to be careless. Rumble! The huge flaming figure moved and directly grabbed at Gu Fei. Let's see how you're going to reverse my attack this time. The emperor sneered. Humph! Gu Fei looked at the huge figure in front of him. His body trembled, and in the next moment, an equally huge figure emerged from his body. Bam! Gu Fei's shadow immediately punched out, and it actually shattered half of the flaming figure that emerged from the emperor's body. What? The emperor was shocked when he saw this scene. How could this guy be so good at everything? He could even condense a shadow to fight against the emperor's flaming figure. Moreover, the figure that emerged from Yi Fuqian's body seemed to be much stronger than the emperor's flaming figure. This made the emperor so depressed that he almost vomited blood. This was because Gu Fei was a head above him in every aspect. Swoosh! Gu Fei's figure suddenly disappeared. What? The emperor was taken aback. He suddenly couldn't sense Gu Fei's aura. The other party suddenly disappeared without a trace. He disappeared completely. Bam! In the next moment, the emperor's vision turned black, and his left eye was directly punched. The emperor was furious. Gu Fei's aura appeared in an instant, but it disappeared in an instant. Then he couldn't sense Gu Fei's aura anymore. Bam! There was another muffled sound, and the emperor's left eye took another punch from Gu Fei. Roar! The emperor attacked furiously, but the figure of Gu Fei that just appeared suddenly disappeared in the void. Despicable and shameless guy. Do you only know how to plot against me? The emperor's divine sense was fully activated, and the powerful infinite realm divine sense instantly enveloped the entire southern barbarian region. He sensed every inch of the void, and the aura of countless creatures instantly appeared in his mind. However, no matter how powerful his divine sense was, he still couldn't sense the existence of Gu Fei. How is this possible? Impossible! The emperor was shocked and angry. What kind of magical power did Gu Fei display? It could actually disappear so completely that even he couldn't sense a trace of his aura? In the eyes of the emperor, this was an impossible thing. However, the impossible had actually happened. Bam! In the next moment, the emperor's face was punched by Gu Fei again. This punch made his nose bleed. "Shameless guy! Do you dare to fight me fair and square?" The emperor roared crazily. "Ha ha!" Gu Fei's figure suddenly appeared opposite the emperor, and he laughed at the sky. "Are you stupid? Aren't I fighting you fair and square right now? It's you who don't have the ability to discover me. Do you want me to stand here and let you hit me? What a joke!" Gu Fei laughed. The emperor was furious. He didn't know how many punches he had received from Gu Fei. His entire face was beaten into a pig's head by Gu Fei. Moreover, Gu Fei's fist contained the infinite power of Tao. The injury on his face was not so easy to heal. In other words, the emperor's pig face would need to be maintained for at least 10 days to half a month before it slowly disappeared. Chapter 5572. When Gu Fei used the 9 secrets of immortal Tao, its power was unimaginable. Even the emperor was beaten to a pulp by Gu Fei. Up in the sky, Xiaoya, who was under the protection of the infinite chaos seal, was shocked to see the 9 secrets of immortal Tao so powerful. Only then did she realize how heaven-defying the 9 secrets of immortal Tao that Gu Fei had taught her was. At this moment, all the infinite primes in the void realm were watching the battle with their divine senses. All the infinite primes were shocked by Gu Fei's ability. The mystique was so powerful that it completely crushed the mysterious infinite prime. Gu Fei appeared and disappeared like a ghost, constantly appearing in places that the emperor would not expect. Then he would give the emperor a punch or a kick. When the emperor wanted to fight back, Gu Fei disappeared instantly. He couldn't even touch the corner of Gu Fei's clothes, so he couldn't threaten Gu Fei at all. "How dare you!" The emperor was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. "Sai, I thought you were something special. So you're just a noob." Gu Fei, who was hiding in the void, sighed. "You must be the mastermind behind the Ju Huang Pavilion." Gu Fei's divine will rippled again. The emperor used his divine will to its fullest, but he couldn't sense Gu Fei's exact location at all, which drove him crazy. This was the first time the emperor had encountered such a difficult opponent, because Gu Fei didn't even want to fight him head-on. From the emperor's point of view, Gu Fei's methods were shameless to the extreme. Gu Fei was an infinite prime. However, Gu Fei didn't think there was anything wrong with him. The strong preyed on the weak. The emperor couldn't hit him because his cultivation wasn't strong enough. Annihilate! The emperor couldn't take it anymore. He roared and finally used his trump card. Buzz! The entire space trembled as a powerful, destructive force spread out from the emperor's body. Everywhere this force passed by, the void shattered, obliterated, and destroyed everything. No matter where Gu Fei hid, there was no way he could escape the emperor's killer move this time. The emperor's ultimate move was to force Gu Fei out. However, he was about to be disappointed because, when the destructive power spread out, even the void was destroyed. However, not even a shadow of Gu Fei could be seen. This caused the emperor to be both shocked and furious. If even this couldn't force Gu Fei out, then the situation was far from good. Swoosh! The emperor's figure suddenly disappeared into the void. Trying to escape? Gu Fei, who was hiding in the dark, immediately knew that the emperor was terrified and wanted to escape. Bam! With a muffled sound, the void trembled and a figure fell out of the void. Boom! With a loud sound, the figure directly smashed through a mountain and fell into the mountain ridge. A cloud of dust rose from the ground. Haha, my shadowless kick is amazing, isn't it? A figure appeared high up in the sky and said while laughing, "You bastard!" In the mountain ridge, a guy climbed out of a big pit on the ground. There was a shoe print on his face. This unlucky guy was naturally the emperor. If he couldn't escape in the sky, then he would escape underground. The next moment, the emperor directly turned into a ray of divine light and disappeared into the ground. He still want to escape? In the sky, Gu Fei had already locked on to the emperor. Could someone who was locked on by Gu Fei escape? Gu Fei reached out his right hand and grabbed the ground. Boom! the entire ground directly exploded. A ray of divine light was like a small loach that was caught by Gu Fei from the ground. It kept struggling in the air, trying to escape. Want to escape from my Five Fingers Mountain? That's a bit difficult, Gu Fei said while looking at the divine light flying towards him. Go to hell. That ray of divine light suddenly erupted with a violent power. Endless divine light erupted, illuminating the entire world. Under the illumination of the divine light, the void was directly annihilated. Gu Fei was taken aback. Is this guy going to play self-destruct? If this power exploded, I'm afraid that even the Nanman Imperial City would be affected. The area within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles would be completely destroyed. One should know that the Emperor was a powerful person in the middle stage of the infinite limit. If he self-destructed, it would be absolutely terrifying to the extreme. The destructive power was simply unimaginable. This guy, Gu Fei, didn't dare to neglect. A chaotic divine light rushed out from his body. Within the divine light, a large seal erupted with powerful, chaotic power. One seal to suppress the universe. Without hesitation, Gu Fei directly activated the infinite chaos seal to suppress the entire void, preventing the explosion of this destructive power and preventing billions of lives from being destroyed. Gu Fei, I'll settle the score with you next time. At this moment, a voice came from afar, and a divine light instantly disappeared. You want to play this trick with me? The corner of Gu Fei's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of an evil smile. This guy, the Emperor, is a bit cunning. This burst of divine light wasn't the Emperor's true body. Although this power seemed terrifying, it only looked powerful. In reality, under the suppression of the Primal Chaos Seal, it didn't even last for a few snaps before it was suppressed by the Primal Chaos Seal. Gu Fei did not chase after it, because this guy was in existence in the infinite limit. If he wanted to escape, even Gu Fei would have a hard time catching up. However, although the Emperor successfully escaped from the hands of Gu Fei, he lost another clone, which made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Before, his clone was killed by Gu Fei, and now Gu Fei killed another clone. This made his heart bleed. Those were the clones that he had cultivated for countless years. Every clone had the cultivation of the early stage of the infinite limit. Only he was so powerful that he could cultivate 2 clones of the infinite limit. Cultivating an infinite limit clone was definitely not an easy task. Even someone as powerful as Sacred Lord Void Sky had only managed to cultivate an infinite grade incarnation. Gu Fei killed 2 infinite limit clones, which was equivalent to cutting off the Emperor's left and right arms. It should be known that 2 clones, in addition to the Emperor's real body, would be the rhythm of 3 great infinite primes attacking together. Gu Fei, you bastard! The Emperor fled back to his nest. The next moment, a roar came from the Emperor's nest, and the entire 9 heavens shook. Up in the 9 heavens, the Emperor's subordinates were all trembling. Master, The Emperor's subordinates were all shocked, because they had never seen their master so angry and lose his composure. Chapter 55-73. The Emperor was the true ruler of the Void Realm. Although he never showed himself, he secretly controlled everything in the cultivation world of the Void Realm. Even the development of the entire Void cultivation world was under his control. If he wanted a force to be destroyed, that force would definitely not be able to escape the fate of destruction. The Emperor was the biggest manipulator in the Void Realm. However, the Emperor, who had been doing whatever he wanted in the Void Realm for countless years, was actually oppressed by a guy who suddenly rose to power. Moreover, he was oppressed very badly. The rise of Gu Fei had actually attracted the Emperor's attention. In the beginning, the Emperor did not take Gu Fei seriously at all. However, when Gu Fei's cultivation soared and became invincible, the Emperor knew that he had underestimated this little guy. When Gu Fei's cultivation recovered to the infinite prime realm, the Emperor knew that he could not suppress this little guy anymore. Actually, the 4 infinite primes forced Gu Fei onto the super formation platform that led to the infinite world all those years ago, and the emperor was behind all of this. Of course, the emperor had done this very secretly. The incarnation of sacred Master Sutian and the other infinite primes did not even know that they had been used. From this, it could be seen how brilliant the emperor's methods were. However, now he had met his nemesis. The emperor fled back to his lair in an extremely embarrassing manner, which shocked his subordinates. In the Imperial Gathering Pavilion in the southern Man Imperial City, after the news of the emperor being oppressed spread, everyone was silent. They were all stunned. Their master had been defeated. What would happen to them? The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion wanted to escape immediately. However, they immediately discovered that the entire Imperial City was enveloped by a powerful force. All the teleportation formation platforms were suppressed by this force and lost their function of teleportation. This made the senior members of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion even more anxious. What should we do? In a secret room in the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, the senior members of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion all felt very heavy. Yenling, you have seen Gu Fei. Why don't you go and look for Gu Fei? The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion suddenly said to Goddess Yenling beside him. Pavilion master, this. Goddess Yenling couldn't help but be startled. She had met Gu Fei before, but she wasn't familiar with Gu Fei. Was it appropriate for her to visit him so rashly? That's right. Yenling, you should go. The unold evil child nodded. Maybe there will be a turn for the better. Shirzun also said. Everyone else looked at Goddess Yenling. Although they didn't say anything, their intentions were the same as the unold evil child and Shirzun. They all wanted Goddess Yenling to go. Goddess Yenling was speechless. Everyone wanted to find Gu Fei themselves, but Gu Fei was an infinite prime who had defeated their master, the emperor. How could such a person be found so easily? However, since the pavilion master and the elders wanted to go, Goddess Yenling didn't dare to say no. Although she was the goddess of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion and could stand on equal footing with the elders, her cultivation was still too weak. Compared to these elders, there was a huge gap. All right, Goddess Yenling nodded. At this time, the major forces in the southern barbarian imperial city were also restless because Shao Yi suddenly sealed the city. All the teleportation formations in the city couldn't be used. Moreover, the entire southern barbarian imperial city was shrouded by a powerful force. Currently, there were only 4 city gates that could be used to enter and exit the southern barbarian imperial city. Even divine kings and emperors could only enter and exit the southern barbarian imperial city through the 4 major city gates. No one knew what Shao Yi would do next. However, since Shao Yi had sealed the city, something big might happen in the southern barbarian imperial city. However, there was still no abnormality in the city for several days. Everyone in the city did what they needed to do and was busy making a living. However, these were the lives of the ordinary people in the city. They didn't care whether Shao Yi sealed the city or not. However, the powerful cultivators in the city weren't so calm. In the entire southern barbarian, or even the entire void realm, who would dare to provoke Gu Fei? In the square in the center of the southern barbarian imperial city, the super teleportation formation platform built by the chaotic heaven, Holy Lord, had reached the most critical moment. No one dared to neglect it, especially the chaotic heaven, Holy Lord. Whether the construction of the super teleportation formation platform was successful or not, it was related to whether they could return to the Flame Star, break through the realm wall of the Limitless Realm, and enter the Limitless Realm. Entering the Limitless Realm was everyone's ultimate goal. It was also Gu Fei's ultimate goal. He didn't know what would happen after entering the Limitless Realm, but he knew that it was a world without death. That was enough. What Gu Fei wanted was actually very simple. He wanted to be with his family forever, because the living beings in the Limitless Realm could live forever without the threat of death. Of course, this kind of immortality was relative. The premise was that no one attacked Gu Fei and the others. That guy, the Void Sky Holy Lord, had already returned to the Limitless Realm. Gu Fei and the Void Sky Holy Lord were destined to have a battle. The only thing he was worried about now was whether he could enter the limitless realm or not. Once he entered the limitless realm, he might never be able to come out. This was because the super teleportation formation platform was completely useless in the limitless realm. The power of the super teleportation formation couldn't break through the realm wall. Even if it could, it would require enough power. So how much power would be needed to break through the realm wall of the limitless realm? Gu Fei really didn't know. Back then, he had been forced to risk his life by the Void Sky Holy Lord. The Void Sky Holy Lord had also risked her life to create a small hole in the realm wall of the limitless realm. Moreover, the Void Sky Holy Lord was really strong. Gu Fei estimated that the Void Sky Holy Lord was even stronger than him. After all, she had almost sucked the cultivation of the chaotic heaven Holy Lord dry. In other words, the Void Sky Holy Lord had the power of two great perfection infinite primes. However, Gu Fei believed that if the Void Sky Holy Lord gathered the power of all the great perfection infinite primes in the Void Sky Holy Lord's Void Sky Holy Lord should be able to break through the realm wall of the limitless realm. Of course, no one knew what the result would be without trying it. Just as Gu Fei and the others were busy building the super teleportation formation platform, an uninvited guest appeared in the 9 heavens, in the Emperor's lair. "Io, why did you turn into a pig head?" When the person saw the Emperor, he immediately became happy. "Moing you." The Emperor was furious. "Haha, who is this pig-headed person?" Moing mocked. "Moing, if you say one more word, I'm going to fall out with you." The Emperor roared at the person. Gu Fei was really despicable. Didn't they say that one shouldn't hit the face when hitting someone? This guy was good. He specifically hit the face. Now, even Moing was mocking him. Moreover, the most hateful thing was that Gu Fei's fist contained the power of the great Tao that Gu Fei cultivated. It wouldn't be easy for the Emperor to recover his handsome appearance. "TSK, do you think I'm afraid of you falling out with me?" Moing sneered. "What are you doing here?" The Emperor said unhappily. "Master is coming. You should prepare," Moing said calmly. What? Chapter 5574. The Emperor's master was coming. If Gu Fei knew about this, even he would be shocked. The Emperor was in existence in the middle stage of the Infinity Realm. If he had a master behind him, wouldn't his master be heaven-defying? Of course. Gu Fei also had many Infinity Realm subordinates. The Limitless Demon Lord, the Holy Master of Chaotic Heaven, and the Limitless Fire Spirit all had a restrictive spell planted on them by Gu Fei. Their lives were in the hands of Gu Fei. After the Emperor got the news from Moing that his master was coming to the Void Realm, he felt a bit complicated. He had waited in the Void Realm for countless years. Finally, he didn't have to stay in this godforsaken place anymore. He could finally return to the Limitless Realm. Thinking of this, the Emperor burst into tears. F***CK, are you crying? Moing stared dumbfoundedly at the Emperor who had been beaten into a pig's head by Gu Fei. "I'm crying? Are you kidding me? I just have something in my eyes." The Emperor insisted. "Tisk, are you lying through your teeth?" Moing rebuked the Emperor. The Emperor didn't want to talk to this guy anymore. He turned around and left. "I'm afraid of you. I'll hide from you, okay?" The old antique, who has lived for countless years, is crying today? Moing couldn't help but shake her head. Then she left the Emperor's lair. It seemed that she had to meet that Gu Fei. She couldn't help but be curious about Gu Fei. This guy could actually beat the Emperor. The Emperor was an amazing person in the middle stage of the Infinity Realm, although his cultivation and battle strength couldn't compare to her. Other than her, not everyone could beat him. Moing was even more mysterious than the Emperor. There were people who knew of the Emperor's existence, but no one had ever sensed Moing's existence. In the entire Void Realm, only the Emperor knew of her existence. Soon, a mysterious figure directly jumped down from the sky and landed on the land of the Void Realm. At this time, the sun rose in the east. When the first ray of sunlight fell on the Southern Man Imperial City, a bright divine light suddenly rushed out from the Southern Man Imperial City and went straight into the endless sky. This divine light condensed and didn't disperse. No one knew where it led. The various forces in the Southern barbaric Imperial City were directly alarmed. Many people directly jumped onto the roofs and looked up into the sky, and all of them were incomparably shocked. The Magi, the Buddha, the West Sea Dragon, and the various vassal kings of Southern Man were all watching. They had more or less guessed some things. You succeeded. In Nanman Imperial City, in Xiaoya's cultivation place, Xiaoya, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, suddenly opened her eyes. Her cultivation had already reached the half-step Emperor realm, and she wanted to break through to the Emperor realm in seclusion. After Xiaoya saw the battle between Gu Fei and the Sovereign, she was greatly touched and seemed to have comprehended something. So after she returned to the Southern barbaric Imperial City, she directly went into closed-door cultivation. Now, Long Xiaozhou was handling the affairs of the entire South China. Gu Fei basically didn't care about these trivial things because he had more important things to do. It's finally done. In the barbarian imperial palace of the Southern barbarian Imperial City, Gu Fei also looked up at the divine light in the sky. He felt a powerful wave of yuan qi spread out from the square of the Southern barbaric Imperial City. The super teleportation formation platform built by the divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven was finally completed. It's time to invite some people out of the mountain. Gu Fei stood up, and in the next moment, he silently disappeared on the spot. At this time, in the square of the Southern barbaric Imperial City, all the people who participated in the construction of the super teleportation formation platform were extremely excited, especially the divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven. He looked at his masterpiece and let out a long sigh. Finally, he could return to the Flame Star. The limitless Demon Lord, the limitless Fire Spirit, and the others were also extremely excited because they learned from the divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven that there was a place called the Flame Star near the boundary of the limitless realm. Gu Fei established his own force on the Flame Star and wanted to use the Flame Star as a stronghold to gather all the limitless realm experts to attack the boundary of the limitless realm. The limitless demon Lord wanted to return to the limitless realm even in his dreams. And Gu Fei's goal was the same as his. The limitless demon Lord was really looking forward to it. He couldn't wait. Long Xiaozhou also came to the square. In order to celebrate the completion of the super teleportation formation platform, she directly held a big banquet in the square. The entire Southern barbaric Imperial City was decorated with lanterns and streamers. It was a festive atmosphere. At this time, Gu Fei appeared at the peak of the Culmination Snow Mountain. The Culmination Snow Mountain was the sacred mountain in the eyes of countless living beings in the Culmination Snow Mountain. It was also the sacred land in the eyes of the cultivators in the entire Void Realm. It was a place that countless cultivators yearned for. However, it was also a place that made countless cultivators shrink back. Because this was not a good place, it was full of opportunities and dangers. The legendary Heaven and Earth Copper Gate was at the peak of the Culmination Snow Mountain. However, the secret of the Heaven and Earth Copper Gate had been cracked by Gu Fei. This so-called Heaven and Earth Copper Gate was just the entrance to a small world left by the Void Realm Sacred Lord. This small world had also fallen into the hands of Gu Fei, and the soul of the world-suppressing artifact had been subdued by him. Gu Fei once again came to the Culmination Snow Mountain. Looking at the towering, white and flawless sacred mountain, his state of mind became extremely calm. Don't hide anymore, come out. Gu Fei took a deep breath, and a wave of divine will immediately spread out from his body. However, no one responded to him at all. That's not good, Gu Fei said indifferently. However, still no one responded to him. All right. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly, then stretched out his right hand and directly punched the depths of the snow mountain. Rumble! The depths of the culmination snow mountain were immediately shaken by Gu Fei's fist force, and it began to shake violently. Gu Fei's punch completely broke the peace of the culmination snow mountain. On the culmination snow mountain, countless snow and ice rolled down the mountain with great momentum, and almost all the snow-capped peaks on the mountain experienced avalanches. Countless living beings suddenly rushed out of the culmination snow mountain. These living beings in the snow mountain usually would not easily show their heads, but now these living beings hiding in the culmination snow mountain all fled in fear. Swoosh! A divine phoenix with flames all over its body rushed out of a valley on the culmination snow mountain. Endless divine fire spread from the divine phoenix's body, and the snow and ice of the nearby snow mountain immediately melted quickly. In another valley, a huge snow bear the size of a hill rushed out, and when this snow bear ran, the entire ground shook. There were also countless strange beasts that Gu Fei had never seen before escaping from the culmination snow mountain. Gu Fei, you've gone too far. A furious divine will came from a secret realm in the depths of the culmination snow mountain. Haha, are you finally coming out? Gu Fei laughed. Swoosh! Chapter 55-75. Gu Fei, what do you mean? I'm already scared of you and hiding from you. What else do you want? The everlasting snow demon roared at Gu Fei agitatedly. When Gu Fei returned to the Void Realm, he had tortured Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation. The everlasting snow demon hid in the depths of the snow mountain with the help of the Ice Soul Divine Pearl. At that time, Gu Fei didn't want to touch this snow demon, but now he had no choice but to touch this snow demon. In Gu Fei's plan, the everlasting snow demon couldn't be absent. Therefore, today he would ask this infinite prime hiding in the depths of the culmination snow mountain to come out. I don't want to do anything. I just want to ask for your help. Gu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the furious everlasting snow demon with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. Did I hear wrongly? You're the great Gu Fei, the strongest person in the Void Realm. You want my help? Hearing this, the everlasting snow demon couldn't help but look at Gu Fei suspiciously. Her mind spun rapidly. What was this guy playing at? I'm not omnipotent. Gu Fei shrugged. In my opinion, there's nothing in this world that you, Gu Fei, can't do. I won't see you out. Thank you. The everlasting snow demon turned around and left, instantly disappearing into the void. Sigh. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly, then punched towards the depths of the culmination snow mountain. Rumble! The entire culmination snow mountain was shaken by Gu Fei's punch. Swish! The everlasting snow demon who had just left appeared in front of Gu Fei angrily again. What do you want? The everlasting snow demon roared at Gu Fei. She was about to go crazy. Gu Fei was an expert at the infinite prime level. With his cultivation, it wouldn't be difficult for him to destroy the culmination snow mountain. The everlasting snow demon's secret realm and the culmination snow mountain coexisted. Once the culmination snow mountain was destroyed, the boundless snow demon's mystic realm would also be affected. I already said that I don't want to do anything. I just want to ask you for a favor, Gu Fei said helplessly. It's that simple. The limitless snow demon looked at Gu Fei in disbelief. It's that simple, Gu Fei said. What do you want me to do for you? The limitless snow demon said helplessly. She was also a little curious. Was there anything in this world that Gu Fei couldn't handle? There was no doubt that Gu Fei was powerful. This was because no one in the entire Void Realm was a match for Gu Fei. If even Gu Fei could not handle this, would she be able to? And actually, I want to go to the limitless realm. Gu Fei pondered for a moment and said, What? The limitless snow demon was taken aback. You can't refuse this favor, can you? Gu Fei said proudly. He knew that the limitless snow demon would not refuse, nor could she refuse to help him. This was because the limitless snow demon also wanted to enter the limitless realm. Their goals were the same. You should have said so earlier. The limitless snow demon said angrily. She really could not refuse Gu Fei's request. So you agree to help? Gu Fei said with a smile. I have no reason not to agree. The limitless snow demon said gloomily. Gu Fei was too despicable. She had been fooled by him. That's good. Wait for my news. As Gu Fei said this, he directly soared into the sky and instantly disappeared into the void. The limitless snow demon raised her head and looked in the direction where Gu Fei disappeared. She was speechless. She also turned and returned to the depths of the culmination, Snow Mountain. The people that Gu Fei wanted to invite were not just the limitless snow demon. He directly rushed to the eastern wilderness. There was another guy hiding in the ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race. This guy could not be missing in Gu Fei's plan. This guy was the ancestor of all demons who had once followed Sacred Master Su Tian. The ancestor of all demons was also an infinite prime. Therefore, Gu Fei left the culmination Snow Mountain and directly rushed to the eastern wilderness. The ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race were very peaceful. This was the forbidden area of the eastern wilderness demon race. Anyone who entered the forbidden area would be in danger of dying inside. However, there was an infinite prime hidden in the ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race. This guy is still sleeping? Gu Fei's figure appeared in the sky above the ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race. The ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race was naturally a treasure land where the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth gathered. The ancestor of all demons was sleeping here. Demon ancestor, why are you still not coming out? Gu Fei's divine will directly spread out in all directions with him as the center. However, the surroundings were still quiet. No one responded to him. Sai, are we going to fight again? Gu Fei shook his head helplessly and punched the ancestral grounds of the demon race again. Boom! Along with a loud sound, the void shook and the entire ancestral grounds of the eastern wilderness demon race shook. Who dares to be so presumptuous in my territory? A figure directly broke out from the ground and appeared in front of Gu Fei. It's you? A wave of divine will spread out from the person who came. Sai, I'm sorry for disturbing your sleep. Gu Fei said to the person in front of him apologetically. Swoosh! The ancestor of all demons flashed and was about to escape back to its nest. However, the next moment, the ancestor of all demons froze in the void and did not move at all. A powerful force restrained him. Why are you running? I'm not here to fight with you. Gu Fei was speechless. This guy seemed to be very afraid of him. What are you trying to do? The voice of the ancestor of all demons trembled. He was also tortured by Gu Fei. Now that he saw Gu Fei again, he was naturally shocked by the sudden appearance of Gu Fei. I don't want anything. I just want to ask you for a favor. Gu Fei said calmly. What? Help? Are you kidding me? The ancestor of all demons was shocked. Was there anything in this world that Gu Fei could not do? Of course. Returning to the unbounded realm was an irresistible temptation for all unbounded realm experts. I'm not joking. Gu Fei said seriously. What do you want me to help you with? The ancestor of all demons hurriedly asked. Break the world wall and enter the unbounded realm. Gu Fei said in a deep voice. The eyes of the ancestor of all demons lit up. The unbounded realm was also a supreme world that the ancestor of all demons yearned for. What? You're not willing? Gu Fei looked at the ancestor of all demons. All right, I agree to help you with this. The ancestor of all demons said hurriedly. Very well, Gu Fei said and waved his right hand. The ancestor of all demons flew out and fell towards the place where he was sleeping. Gu Fei, you bastard! The roar of the ancestor of all demons came from the depths of the ancestral grounds. Wait for my news. Gu Fei said and disappeared into the void. In his opinion, no one could resist the temptation of the unbounded realm. It was proven that all unbounded realm experts wanted to enter the unbounded realm. Chapter 5576. Gu Fei personally went to invite the Wuji Snow Demon and the demon ancestor of the Eastern Wilderness Demon Clan. These two guys couldn't hide, even if they wanted to this time. After all, no one who was targeted by Gu Fei could hide from him. The Void Realm was only so big. Gu Fei was not afraid of these two guys fooling him, because the consequences of fooling him were very serious. At this time, the entire Void Realm was basically conquered by Gu Fei. No one dared to go against Gu Fei anymore, but there were still people who were very unhappy with Gu Fei. Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang would not surrender to Gu Fei. When the news that the Wuji Demon Lord was subdued by Gu Fei reached the demons, Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang directly slipped away. This made the devil general of the devil race very unhappy. The demons then sent the experts among the demons to kill Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang. However, these two fellows were incomparably cunning. It was not an easy thing for the fiend race's powerhouses to want to kill them. However, these two guys, Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang, were not in Gu Fei's eyes at all. He would not deal with them personally. If he did it himself, wouldn't he think too highly of them? Gu Fei didn't care, but it didn't mean that Xiao Ye and the others would let Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang go. Xiao Ye was also on the move. Many of her experts had left South China and entered Zhongtian. Lin Xiaotian and Dong Huang were a big threat to Xiao Ye and the others. The Buddha clan also began to return to Zhongtian. The West Sea Dragon clan also had plans to return to West Sea. Whether it was the Buddha clan or the West Sea Dragon clan, although they all moved to South China, Zhongtian and West Sea were still their ancestral lands. Moreover, these areas needed experts to guard. After Gu Fei's return, the power structure of the entire Void Realm changed again. Gu Fei dominated the entire Void Realm. The entire Void Realm was Gu Fei's territory. He was the Realm Lord of the Void Realm. However, the Void Realm was still in turmoil. Some regions even needed experts to oversee them. The current southern wilderness had become the center of the entire Void Realm. At that moment, on the peak of a sacred mountain floating in the 9 heavens, there was a huge teleportation platform on the entire peak. Ancient runes were imprinted on every single brick on the platform. The entire formation platform exuded an ancient and vicissitude aura. It was obvious that this was a formation platform that had existed for countless years. At that moment, 2 figures were standing in the void far away from the sacred mountain. "Master, can you really cross over?" The emperor, whose face was still swollen like a pig's head, said to the mysterious black shadow beside him. He seriously doubted Mo Ying's words. It should be known that it was almost impossible to enter or leave the limitless realm. The laws of the infinite world were so powerful that even infinite primes like them shuddered. They might be able to summon wind and rain in the void world, and they were basically omnipotent. But in the limitless realm, in the face of the limitless realm's powerful laws of heaven and earth, they were only slightly stronger than ordinary life forms of the limitless realm. Back then, they had only managed to leave the limitless realm successfully with the help of their master. Moreover, the conditions to leave the limitless realm were very harsh. It could be said that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even their master could not enter and exit the limitless realm at will, unless their master had cultivated to a level where he did not fear the laws of heaven and earth of the limitless realm. Would I dare to lie to you about this? If you complain about me in front of master, wouldn't I be in trouble? Mo Ying said coldly. Could it be that master has already cultivated to the legendary extreme, heaven realm? The emperor exclaimed, "How would I know?" Mo Ying said impatiently. She and the emperor had already left the limitless realm for countless years. They had even arrived in the void realm earlier than the limitless demon lord, sacred master void sky, and sacred master chaotic sky. They were the first infinite primes to appear in the void realm. Buzz! At that moment, the ancient teleportation formation platform at the peak of the sacred mountain suddenly began to shake. Ancient runes began to appear on the teleportation formation platform, one after another. More and more runes interweaved to form array diagrams. Countless array diagrams then formed a huge teleportation platform. Rumble! The entire divine mountain began to shake. Cracks began to appear on the incomparably sturdy body of the mountain, as if it could crumble at any moment. Is Master going to cross over? The Emperor was extremely excited. Even though Gu Fei was very powerful now, if his master really crossed over, then Gu Fei's good days would come to an end. In the eyes of the Emperor, their master was an omnipotent existence. Even in the limitless realm, there were very few people who were a match for their master. Actually, the limitless realm was not as beautiful as Gu Fei and the rest imagined. Gu Fei and the rest wanted to go in, but some people in the limitless realm wanted to come out. Boom! With a loud sound, the entire sacred mountain exploded, turning into dust that dissipated into the void. A huge teleportation platform floated in the void. The void around the teleportation platform shook violently. Transparent spatial ripples spread out in all directions. The explosive energy waves shook the heavens and the earth. The entire teleportation platform erupted with an extremely powerful divine light, illuminating the entire void. Swish! A divine light broke through the void and landed directly on the teleportation platform. Master really came? Mo Ying was extremely excited when she saw this scene. He succeeded? The Emperor was even more excited than Mo Ying. Since their master could come here from the limitless realm, it meant that they could also return to the limitless realm from here. How could the Emperor remain calm when he thought of returning to the limitless realm that he had left for countless years? At this moment, the teleportation platform that was even more dazzling than the divine sun gradually dimmed. A figure appeared on the teleportation platform, and a domineering aura suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Under the shroud of this aura, the Emperor and Mo Ying trembled in fear. "Greetings, Master." The Emperor and Mo Ying hurriedly bowed to the figure on the teleportation platform. At this time, in the southern barbarian imperial city above the void realm, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky above the city, suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the sky. He seemed to feel something, but he did not sense anything strange. However, he felt a trace of uneasiness, as if something bad was about to happen. The commotion above the 9 heavens was so big, but even Gu Fei could not sense it. He had to say that the Emperor and Mo Ying were really capable. What's going on? Gu Fei was very puzzled. With his current cultivation, who in the void realm could threaten him? He never would have thought that the people who could threaten him were not from the void realm. At this time, Gu Fei planned to find a time to gather all the infinite primes in the void realm and then bring them back to the flame world. Chapter 5577. Southern Barbaric Imperial City. In the most luxurious room of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, a black-clothed youth was lying comfortably on a leather chair that was covered with animal skin. An extremely beautiful young woman was holding a plate of fruit as she carefully waited on the side. At the feet of the black-robed youth, there were 2 guys lying on the ground. The woman holding the plate of fruit was actually the master of Juhuang Pavilion. She was a supreme emperor, but in front of the black-robed youth, she was actually a little maid. As for the Dark Knight Sovereign, who stood high above and secretly controlled the development of the entire Void Realm, the most powerful person in the Void Realm, the Sovereign of the Dark Knight, was like an obedient kitten lying at the feet of the black-robed youth. The other mysterious existence, Mo Ying, was the same. In front of the black-robed youth, they were actually humble like ants under his feet. At this time, the master of Juhuang Pavilion carefully handed an immortal fruit to the black-robed youth's mouth. The black-robed youth opened his mouth and sucked. The immortal fruit in the master's hand flew into his mouth, and a trace of juice flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The master of Juhuang Pavilion hurriedly took out a silk handkerchief and carefully wiped the juice from the corner of the black-robed youth's mouth. You too have been in this world for so long, but you actually haven't done anything." The black-robed youth didn't even look at the emperor and Mo-ing who were lying on the ground. He casually took a cup of immortal wine and took a sip. The emperor and Mo-ing were terrified. "I am quite disappointed in you two." The black-robed youth put down the wine cup in his hand and said, "Master, this subordinate will definitely take down that Gu Fei," the emperor said in horror. His voice was trembling. "If you could take down that little guy, you would have done it long ago. Why would you wait until now?" The black-robed youth said impatiently. The emperor and Mo-ing were lying on the ground, shivering. "You know that I will not raise trash." The black-robed youth said indifferently, "Master, please spare us." The emperor and Mo-ing were shocked when they heard this. "All right, you two still have some use. Get out of here." The black-robed youth waved his hand impatiently. "Yes, master. Thank you for not killing us. This subordinate will get out now." After saying that, the emperor actually started to roll on the ground, rolling towards the door. Mo-ing also rolled out. The pavilion master of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, who was waiting on the side, was stunned when she saw this scene. She never expected that the almighty and omnipotent master, the emperor, would have such a lowly side to him. The pavilion master wouldn't have believed it if he hadn't witnessed it with his own eyes. On the other hand, the pavilion master of Juhuang Pavilion was extremely curious. What was the background of his master's master? Master was actually so afraid of this black-clothed youth who suddenly appeared. She really wanted to know, but she didn't dare to ask. Two idiots, they can't even deal with a little fellow from the mortal world. Sigh. The youth in black shook his head helplessly. At this moment, Gu Fei was gathering all the infinite primes in the Void Realm. He was preparing to leave the Void Realm. However, before he left the Void Realm, he had to deal with the Emperor. The Emperor was definitely a hidden danger. If he took away all the infinite primes in the Void Realm, then who in the entire Void Realm would be a match for the Emperor? In that case, Little Yet and the others would probably suffer a calamity. Gu Fei didn't want his disciples to be bullied. Moreover, the Emperor was beaten into a pig's head by him. He must hate him to the core. If he left the Void Realm, Little Yet and the others would definitely die. Little Yet and Long Xiaozhou were Gu Fei's disciples. Gu Fei wouldn't ignore the life and death of his disciples. Of course, Gu Fei could also bring Little Yet and Long Xiaozhou along with him. However, if he brought them along, they wouldn't be able to train, and it would be difficult for them to have a breakthrough in their cultivation realm. It should be known that when a master was introduced into the sect, cultivation depended on the individual. Gu Fei only pointed out the direction of cultivation for Xiao Yet and Long Xiaozhou and taught them the divine powers. As for how far Xiao Yet and Long Xiaozhou could go on the path of experts, it was up to them. Soon, one powerful aura after another appeared in the southern country, Imperial City. And Gu Fei also let Little Yi send out countless spies. He knew that the Emperor had been abused so badly by him. How could he let it go? This guy was definitely still in southern country, because that guy was looking for him, for revenge. However, it was impossible for Little Ye's subordinates to find the Emperor. However, Little Ye's people were staring at the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. For several days, the southern country Imperial City was calm on the surface, but there was a turbulence in the dark. What is that Gu Fei doing? At the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, the Emperor and Mo-ing were looking in the direction of the southern country Imperial City. The power of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was not small. The Emperor Gathering Pavilion had been operating in the southern country Imperial City for countless years. No one knew how many people from the Emperor Gathering Pavilion were in the entire southern country Imperial City. Do you still need to ask? He must be doing something big. Mo-ing glanced at the Emperor and said coldly, "Aren't you talking nonsense? Is Gu Fei gathering these little guys for fun?" The Emperor said in a very unhappy tone, "What did you say?" Mo-ing was angry. If it wasn't for the Emperor, would she be scolded by her master? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I said? The Emperor said with a cold face, "Believe it or not, I can beat the shit out of you. Mo gritted her teeth. She had long been displeased with the emperor. Is that so? Then try it. The emperor stared at Mo with equal harshness. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Mo rubbed her hands and was about to make a move. Come, come, come. I have long wanted to teach you a lesson. His Majesty also got into an attacking stance. Two powerful auras broke out from the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. You two idiots! Just when the Emperor and Mo were about to fight, a cold voice sounded. Then a figure appeared at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Master! When the Emperor and Mo saw the person, they directly kneeled on the ground. If I didn't make a move, I'm afraid you would have been sensed by that little guy. The youth in black said indifferently. The Emperor and Mo were very frightened. That little fellow is really interesting. I didn't come here in vain. The youth in black continued. Interesting. The Emperor and Mo couldn't help but be shocked. What did Master mean by that? Was he saying that Gu Fei was interesting? They were a little confused. Don't go and make trouble, understand? The youth in black said and directly disappeared into the void. Yes, Master. The Emperor and Mo hurriedly replied. Could it be that Master has taken a fancy to this Gu Fei and wants to subdue Gu Fei for his own use? The Emperor whispered to Mo after the Master left. Mo didn't say anything, but she also had the same thought. At this time, in the palace hall of the southern barbarian royal city, a group of infinite primes from the void world gathered together. Where's Yen Wu? Gu Fei, who was sitting on the throne, found that Yen Wu hadn't arrived yet. The incarnation of sacred master Su Tian, who was subdued by Yen Wu, also hadn't arrived yet. Chapter 5578. Yen Wu and sacred Lord Void Sky's avatars had yet to arrive, which made Gu Fei feel that something was wrong. These days he could feel that there was a pair of eyes staring at him, but he couldn't sense the aura of any living beings. Gu Fei was very confident in his senses. He knew that there was an extraordinary existence staring at him in a corner of the southern barbarian imperial city. This was definitely not a good thing for him. This was because even he couldn't sense the existence of that guy, which meant that the guy's cultivation was at least the same as his, or even higher than his. His cultivation was at the peak of peerless state. If the guy secretly staring at him had a higher cultivation than him, wouldn't that guy be at the peak of peerless state? If that was really the case, then he would be in danger. Gu Fei knew very well that if the person secretly staring at him really had the cultivation of a peak peerless state, then he might not be this guy's opponent. Thinking of this, Gu Fei was a little nervous. However, he was also looking forward to it because no one in the entire Void Realm was his opponent. It didn't seem to be a bad thing to meet an opponent that he could fight to his heart's content. This was because he had mastered the 9 secrets of the immortal path. Even a peak peerless state existence wouldn't be able to kill him easily. If he couldn't win, couldn't he just escape? Gu Fei never thought that escaping when he couldn't win was a shameful thing. If he still fought when he couldn't win, then he would be an idiot. At this time, the sun was high in the sky. Gu Fei and a group of peerless primes were waiting in the main hall of the southern barbarian imperial palace. The limitless demon lord and the others in the main hall were a little impatient. However, they didn't dare to say it or ask. They all wanted to know where Yen Wu and sacred Lord Void Sky's avatars went, but if Gu Fei didn't say, who would dare to ask? In a valley hundreds of thousands of miles away from the southern barbarian imperial city, a mysterious figure blocked Yen Wu and sacred Lord Void Sky's avatars in the valley. In the valley, the powerful aura of the extreme Tao level was vast and mighty. However, Gu Fei, who was in the main hall of the southern barbarian imperial palace, couldn't sense any aura here. Who are you? Yen Wu stood on a boulder, her white robes fluttering in the wind. She looked otherworldly. A middle-aged man stood on the ground next to Yen Wu. This middle-aged man was Sacred Master Void Sky's clone. Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation stared at the black-robed youth nervously. This black-robed young man didn't give off any aura at all. This was what shocked Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones. After all, even with their cultivations, they were actually unable to sense the aura of this person before them. How was this possible? This was especially so for Yen Wu, who was an infinite, intermediate-level existence. Yen Wu had the strength to fight Gu Fei. She was also the ruler of Flame World, a supreme existence born from the world's will. Even Gu Fei couldn't do this at such a close distance. If not for her eyes, Yen Wu wouldn't have been able to sense this mysterious black-clothed youth's existence at all. Furthermore, Yen Wu was shocked to discover that the aura of this black-robed young man seemed to be somewhat similar to that of Gu Fei. What was going on? Could it be a coincidence? Interesting. Heaven and earth have given birth to a will and life. The black-robed youth looked at Yen Wu and suddenly said, "You." Yen Wu was taken aback. This fellow was actually able to see through her origins with a single glance. Just where did this fellow come from? She felt a thread of uneasiness. Her instincts told her that this mysterious black-robed person was very powerful. Of course, Yen Wu wasn't afraid of this person. One had to know that she was the world's will of Flame World and had existed for countless years. What hadn't she seen? "Master, what do we do now?" Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone also knew that this black-robed youth was not to be trifled with, and he didn't seem to have good intentions. "What else can we do?" "Kill him." Yen Wu was very decisive. She took a step forward and threw a punch at the black-robed youth. Boom, boom, boom. A monstrous fist force immediately surged towards the black-robed youth. "I didn't know that you had such a temper. You start fighting just because you don't like it?" The black-robed youth smiled mysteriously and jumped up. The force of Yen Wu's punch passed through his feet and didn't even touch his clothes. "What?" Yen Wu was shocked when she saw this. The other person seemed to jump casually, but he was able to dodge her fist force just like that. This person was not weak. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and attack," Yen Wu said to Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone. "Yes, Master." Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone pushed off the ground and instantly shot into the sky, pouncing towards the figure in the sky. One finger breaking the sky, Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone roared angrily. He reached out with his right hand and pointed a finger at the black-robed youth. Whoosh! A bright, godly light shot out of Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone's finger and directly pierced towards the black-robed youth. Its speed was extremely fast. "Ha ha!" The black-robed youth walked through the air as if he was taking a stroll and easily dodged the finger light. "The power of your finger is not bad, but if you want to break the sky, you're overestimating yourself." The black-robed youth said. This Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone was both shocked and angry when he heard this. Just who was this person? Why had he never seen this person before? Apart from that mysterious infinite prime, could there be other infinite primes in the void world that he didn't know about? It seemed like the waters of the void world were deeper than he had imagined. Preposterous! Yen Wu didn't dare to be slow and immediately used her trump card. In the next instant, a sword hum sounded from Yen Wu's body. Then the entire sky was filled with chilling sword chi. With Yen Wu at the center, the entire sky seemed to have turned into a world of swords. This way, the black-robed youth had no place to dodge Yen Wu's sword chi. One thought to create heaven and earth. The black-robed youth's eyes lit up when he saw this. There was actually such an expert in the void world. It seemed like he hadn't come here for nothing. Endless sword chi shot towards the black-robed youth from all directions. However, the instant the sword chi got close to the black-robed youth, it disappeared without a trace. Even Yen Wu couldn't sense the existence of the sword chi anymore. The sword chi that got close to the black-robed youth seemed to have entered another world. You're not the only one who can create heaven and earth with one thought. The black-robed youth looked at Yenwu and revealed a cold and evil smile. Chapter 5579. In a valley in the southern barbaric lands, the mysterious black-robed youth blocked Yenwu and sacred Master Void Sky's avatars. Who was Yenwu? She used to be the will of the flame world. She was the true ruler of a superworld. Ever since she was born, she had only suffered once at the hands of sacred Master Su Tian. Then she fought against Gu Fei, but she was unable to defeat Gu Fei. Gu Fei and sacred Master Void Sky were the two people that Yenwu found hard to deal with before today. Today, she met another person that she couldn't seem to deal with. Get in here. The mysterious black-robed youth suddenly laughed evilly. A powerful ripple of power instantly spread from his body and enveloped Yenwu and sacred Master Void Sky's avatars. What? Both Yenwu and sacred Master Void Sky's avatars were shocked. They only felt the world spin, and then they appeared in a place where they couldn't see the sky or the ground. Inner world. Yenwu swept her gaze over her surroundings with a grim expression. This space was obviously a world that the mysterious black-robed youth had opened up. He had actually taken them into the world he had opened up. This was not good for Yenwu and sacred Master Void Sky's avatars. This was because the other was the ruler of this world. If they fought here, Yenwu and sacred Master Void Sky would be suppressed by this world. The black-robed youth had the advantage here. Humph. Yenwu snickered coldly. In the next instant, a powerful surge of heaven and earth power exploded from her body. She wanted to break open the other's world. The two strong surges of heaven and earth power clashed together. Boom, boom, boom. The entire void was shaking, and one pitch-black spatial crack after another appeared in the void. Sacred Master Void Sky's avatar hurriedly used his inner world power to protect himself. Otherwise, even he would be heavily injured if he was touched by the two surges of heaven and earth power. This way, there are three surges of heaven and earth power colliding and destroying each other. You are still far from being my match, even if you team up. The mysterious black-robed youth snickered coldly. Who are you? Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation roared. Who I am is not something a low-level avatar like you has the right to know. The mysterious black-robed youth said proudly. What? Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation was shocked. This fellow was able to see through his origin with a single glance. How was this possible? This fellow was too powerful. One had to know that Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was in existence with flesh and blood. Normal infinite primes would not be able to see through it at all. However, this guy was able to see through him. What are you so surprised for? You're just little kids who have just reached infinite prime. You're at the lowest level of infinite prime mortal realm. The mysterious man in black said indifferently. You actually know this. Where did you come from? How is that possible? No one has ever been able to freely enter and exit that world. When Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation heard this, he was extremely shocked. He was someone from the everlasting realm, so he naturally knew the cultivation realms and levels of the everlasting realm. This black-robed youth was actually able to say the cultivation realms of the everlasting realm. Without a doubt, this fellow was also from the everlasting realm. This was because only people from the everlasting realm knew the cultivation realms of the everlasting realm. You're too ignorant. I couldn't in the past, but things are different now. The black-robed youth said proudly. Could it be you? Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation subtly thought of something and revealed a terrified expression. You're from the everlasting realm. Yenwu's eyes twinkled as she stared at the black-robed youth. In front of me, you should be more obedient. Otherwise, the consequences will be very severe. The black-robed youth laughed. Die. Yan Wu roared angrily and punched at the black-robed youth. The fist energy that erupted from Yan Wu's fist actually tore through the power of heaven and earth, instantly arriving before the black-clothed youth. Although the berserk fist energy didn't land on the black-clothed youth, he still felt a sharp pain from the fist's wind. However, the black-robed youth casually reached out with his right hand and grabbed Yan Wu's fist. In the next instant, Yan Wu was sent flying by the black-robed youth's fist. What? Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation was extremely shocked when she saw this. This black-robed youth was actually so strong that he could send Yan Wu flying so easily. Could he really be in existence of that realm? Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation was truly shocked by this scene. Wang. At this moment, a sword hum sounded. Yan Wu's entire body turned into an extremely sharp sword light that shot toward the black-robed youth. She was the sword, and the sword was her. Yan Wu's cultivation in the sword Dao wasn't weak either. If she met the everlasting sword master, sparks would probably fly. Unfortunately, the everlasting sword master wasn't someone who could appear just because he wanted to. The mysterious black-robed youth was like a phantom as he flashed through the air. No matter how fast or sharp Yan Wu's sword light was, it couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. From the perspective of Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation, this mysterious black-robed youth seemed to know how Yan was going to attack and was able to dodge at the last moment. Even Gu Fei probably didn't have this ability. Yan Wu's sword light couldn't touch this mysterious youth at all. Damn it! Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation charged forward. He wanted to use his heaven and earth power to lock onto the mysterious youth, but it was useless. Moreover, he discovered that this black-robed youth was still devouring their heaven and earth power. This way, the black-robed youth would naturally become stronger as he fought, while they would become weaker. There was only one result. They would be defeated by this black-robed youth. You're just an incarnation. Don't look for trouble. The black-robed youth didn't think much of Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation. In his eyes, Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation was just a normal incarnation. It wasn't anything special. You actually dare to look down on me like this? Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation was extremely depressed. He was first abused by Gu Fei and now by Yan Wu. Now he was being looked down on by this fellow. He started to wonder if he was really that weak. One had to know that he was the strongest existence among the Everlasting Demon Master, Everlasting Sword Master, and Everlasting Snow Demon. He had never been looked down on like this before. Go and die. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone roared angrily, and a terrifying, limitless divine fire burst out of his body. In just an instant, the entire void was enveloped by the everlasting divine fire. The black-robed youth was naturally enveloped by the everlasting divine fire that erupted from Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation. The entire void was shaken by the everlasting divine fire, and huge spatial cracks appeared one after another. This is Chapter 5580. Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation was originally a supreme existence that ruled over the Void Realm. However, when Gu Fei rose and Gu Fei recovered his infinite prime cultivation, Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation didn't have it easy. He felt a great threat from Gu Fei. Because of this, Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation teamed up with the Limitless Demon Lord and the others to force Gu Fei to step on the ancient teleportation formation that led to the Infinite Realm. He clearly knew that everyone who stepped onto the Heaven Clan's ancient array platform died. Not a single one of them survived. However, a miracle happened this time. Gu Fei didn't die because of this. Instead, his cultivation improved greatly, and he returned to the Void Realm to abuse Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation. However, what made Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation so depressed was that apart from Gu Fei, there was also a woman who followed Gu Fei back to the Void Realm who could also abuse him. Now, he met a mysterious youth who said that he was a low-level incarnation and didn't have the right to know this youth's name. This made Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation explode with anger. Rumble! Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone was enraged. An extremely powerful, boundless divine fire burst forth from his body and burned the void. Even the black-robed youth's small world was burned to the point where huge spatial cracks appeared one after another. This way, the auras of Yenwu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnations appeared in the southern barbarian land and were immediately sensed by Gu Fei in the southern barbarian imperial city. All of you wait here. In the next moment, Gu Fei's figure instantly disappeared in front of everyone. The limitless demon lord and the others also sensed the auras of Yenwu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnations. They were very curious about what happened to them. Since Yenwu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnations couldn't reach the southern barbarian imperial city in time, it seemed like it wasn't a small matter. However, since Gu Fei told them to wait here, they couldn't leave this hall. Swoosh! At this moment, Gu Fei's figure appeared in the sky above a valley in the Nanman mountain range. It was clearly here. How did it disappear? Gu Fei's spiritual will spread out, enveloping the surrounding area as he sensed carefully. However, to his disbelief, the auras of Yenwu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones had completely disappeared. How is this possible? Gu Fei found it hard to believe. Was it the Emperor's doing? He immediately rejected this idea, because the Emperor did not have that kind of ability. One must know that the Emperor couldn't even defeat him, and Yenwu's cultivation was on par with his. Moreover, Yenwu had Sacred Master Void Sky's clone by her side. If the two of them were to join forces, Gu Fei knew that he would have a hard time dealing with them. Who is it? Gu Fei was really curious. At this moment, the youth in black had no choice but to get serious. He immediately sealed the auras of Yenwu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones. You want that little guy to save you. The youth in black laughed coldly as he dodged Yenwu's attack. He moved freely in the infinite divine fire, and the infinite divine fire, which could even burn and distort the void, could not get close to him. This guy, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, felt helpless. This mysterious youth was really too strong. The heaven and earth power of the mysterious youth's little world instantly multiplied, and the direct result was that the auras of Yenwu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones were completely locked in this little world. Even Gu Fei, who was outside, could not sense the existence of Yenwu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones. Damn it! At this moment, Yenwu also became ruthless. Buzz! The sword light that Yenwu transformed into suddenly vibrated, and waves of sword chi spread out from the sword light. In the next moment, this sword light pierced towards the youth in black with lightning speed. However, this time, the youth in black actually did not dodge. He stretched out his right hand unhurriedly and directly flicked the sword light. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. Then, the sword light that Yenwu transformed into was actually flicked away by the youth in black's finger. Seeing this, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was completely dumbfounded. This fellow actually used his finger to flick away Yenwu's sword light? If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone would not have imagined that there was actually such a powerful person in this world who could flick away Yenwu's sword light with his finger. That was Yenwu. What are you still standing there for? What are you waiting for? Yenwu's voice sounded in the mind of Sacred Master Void Sky's clone. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone suddenly recovered from the shock. Burning the heavens! Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone roared in anger and attacked with all his might. This time, an even stronger wave of infinite divine fire exploded from his body. This divine fire was almost transparent, and it spread out like waves of water, penetrating through every opening. One had to admit that Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was really going all out. He had even used the life divine fire that he had cultivated for countless years, but had never used before. Even when Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was fighting against Gu Fei and Yen Wu, he had not used this trump card. This nearly transparent, limitless god fire spread out from the body of Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone. Everywhere it passed, the void was destroyed. What? The youth in black was shocked. He did not expect that this low-level clone, whom he did not care about at all, would be so terrifying when he was angry. At this moment, a huge hole appeared in the void with Sacred Master Void Sky's clone at the center. The aura of the outside world immediately flowed in from outside. At this moment, Gu Fei, who was in the sky above the valley, suddenly saw a black hole appear in the valley. This black hole had appeared without any warning. As expected, Gu Fei turned around and stared at the black hole that had suddenly appeared. In reality, he had already guessed that Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones had been trapped in a small world. However, the person who could trap Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones in a small world was quite capable. Gu Fei realized that the black hole that had appeared in the void was quickly becoming smaller. It would disappear very soon. In the next moment, Gu Fei's figure disappeared from the void. At the same time, the mysterious youth in black's small world started to shake violently. Countless black, spatial cracks appeared in the void. A silhouette appeared in this part of the world. A powerful aura spread out from this silhouette, causing the entire small world to show signs of collapsing. Gu Fei, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, was both surprised and happy when he saw who it was. AI. Chapter 5581. In the mysterious black-clothed youth's little world, Gu Fei looked at him quietly. Yen Wu's and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones were standing behind him. Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones had stopped attacking the moment Gu Fei entered the little world. The black-clothed youth's attention had also landed on Gu Fei. After Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones stopped attacking, he didn't attack either. You're quite capable. The black-clothed youth sized up Gu Fei. You're quite capable as well, Gu Fei said. He was also sizing up the black-clothed youth with a solemn expression. He realized that he couldn't see through this fellow's cultivation. This was the first time he couldn't see through someone's cultivation after reaching the infinite prime realm. Just who was this mysterious person? Why was there such a fellow hiding in the mirage? Of course, even he couldn't see through this fellow's cultivation. If he wanted to hide, no one would be able to sense his existence. You're the first person in the past billions of years who dares to speak like this in front of me, the black-clothed youth said calmly. So you're an antique and a super antique at that. Gu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest. What did you say? The black-clothed youth's eyes flashed with a cold light. Am I wrong? Ha! Gu Fei laughed. Although he seemed relaxed, he had actually locked onto the black-clothed youth. Little fellow, your skin is itching, right? The black-clothed youth suddenly smiled coldly. My skin is itching. Do you want to help me? Gu Fei teased. You're really asking for a beating. After saying that, the black-robed youth instantly disappeared into the void. This was his own little world. In this place, he was the absolute ruler. However, Gu Fei also disappeared into the void at the same time. Bam! With a muffled sound, two figures appeared at the same time. Their fists had already collided, and a transparent spatial ripple spread between the two. In the next instant, the transparent ripple destroyed the void wherever it passed. A terrifying aura of destruction spread out. Seeing this, Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones could not help but feel shocked. They hurriedly took advantage of the moment this small world was collapsing to charge out. Boom! With a loud bang, the small world that the black-robed young man had opened up exploded and turned into chaos. Terrifying destructive lightning was wreaking havoc within this primal chaos. Even an extreme Dao realm existence would be obliterated if they were struck by this primal chaos lightning, and their souls would scatter. However, the powerful chaotic lightning could not even get close to Gu Fei and the black-robed youth. An invisible force spread out from Gu Fei's body to block the primal lightning. The mysterious black-robed young man was the same. Not only did he block the primal chaos lightning, he was also devouring its energy. "You're someone from the outside world." An idea suddenly flashed through Gu Fei's mind as he blurted out, "Ah, you have good eyesight, little fellow," the black-robed youth said with some surprise. He didn't expect that the little guy in front of him would be able to see through his background. As expected, when Gu Fei fought with this fellow, he sensed a faint aura that was incompatible with this world from this fellow's body. "Are you from the unbounded realm?" Gu Fei asked again. At this moment, the two's fists were still pressed against each other. Only a place like the unbounded realm could produce such a powerful existence. The worlds outside of the unbounded realm, even the super-world flame world, only had Yanwu. The flame world was a superworld that was close to the unbounded realm. It was obvious that this black-robed youth's cultivation and battle prowess were above Yanwu's. "Congratulations, you've guessed correctly again." The black-robed youth grinned. "It's not like I haven't beaten people from the unbounded realm before. Today I'll show you my power." As Gu Fei spoke, he shook his right fist. An even stronger force immediately exploded from his right fist, dispersing the surrounding chaotic aura. The black-robed youth felt his right fist sink as a huge force collided with his opponent's fist. Interesting. The black-robed youth also shook his right fist. Rumble, the two even stronger forces collided in an instant. Then, two figures flew backward at the same time. The surrounding void directly collapsed and was annihilated, turning into chaos. A huge black hole suddenly appeared in the sky above the southern barbarian mountain range in the Void Realm. This black hole was very frightening. It blocked the entire sky as if it was going to swallow the entire southern barbarian or even the entire Void Realm. At this moment, all the infinite primes in the Void Realm sensed two unimaginably powerful auras erupting from the southern barbarian mountain range. All the powerhouses above the extreme Tao realm in the Void Realm could sense these two auras. No matter where these beings above the extreme Tao realm were, as long as they were in the Void Realm, they would be able to sense these two auras. Countless creatures shivered in fear, all of them incomparably terrified. Its master, the infinite primes in the southern barbarian palace, could not sit still. Gu Fei actually fought with someone, and the other aura was definitely not weaker than Gu Fei's. Who is the other person? The limitless demon lord and the others were inexplicably shocked. They actually fought just like that? At the top of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, the Emperor and Mo-ing were also extremely shocked. They never thought that their master and Gu Fei would fight so quickly. That Gu Fei is really awesome. He actually dared to fight with our master. The Emperor and Mo-ing could not help but admire Gu Fei. If it were them, they would not have the courage to face their master, let alone challenge him. Countless years ago, their master was almost the most powerful existence in the limitless realm. Now that countless years have passed, their master's cultivation must have broken through to that legendary realm. Otherwise, their master would not have appeared in the Void Realm. Gu Fei dared to fight with our master. He is looking for trouble. Mo-ing said disdainfully. She was an existence at the great perfection of the infinite prime realm. Even she did not dare to be presumptuous in front of their master. Gu Fei was only at the great perfection of the infinite prime realm. "This is hard to say," the Emperor muttered to himself. He had fought with Gu Fei and was ruthlessly beaten by Gu Fei. Now his face was still swollen like a pig's head. No one knew better than him how powerful and terrifying Gu Fei was. If he had not escaped quickly that day, he would probably have died in the hands of Gu Fei. "You actually have no confidence in our master?" Mo-ing looked at the Emperor in disbelief. I didn't mean that," the Emperor hurriedly said. He knew that he had misspoken. If their master knew, he would be in trouble. At this moment, a dull collision actually came from the depths of the southern barbarian mountain range. Even the people in the southern barbarian imperial city could hear it clearly. Chapter 5582. Gu Fei and the mysterious master behind the emperor had finally met. When the two experts met, there would definitely be a battle. There was no suspense. Gu Fei and the mysterious black-clothed youth began to fight, creating a huge black hole in the sky above Nanman. The laws of heaven and earth in the void realm could no longer suppress the power of these two experts. The void was directly shattered by their power. In the black hole, the chaotic chi was vast and mighty. A terrifying aura of destruction erupted from the black hole in the sky. The billions of living beings in Nanman were all extremely terrified. All the infinite primes gathered in Nanman Imperial City also sensed Gu Fei and another powerful aura that was not weaker than Gu Fei's. There's actually someone who can fight against Master. All the infinite primes in the Nanman Imperial Palace in Nanman Imperial City were stunned. That aura was too powerful. It was definitely not weaker than Gu Fei's. It seemed that Gu Fei had met his match this time. However, all the infinite primes in the palace knew very well how powerful Gu Fei was. Whether it was the limitless demon lord or the limitless snow demon, they had both fought with Gu Fei before. However, there was actually an existence that could fight against Gu Fei in the Void Realm. This was unbelievable because they had never sensed this aura before. This person could actually hide in the Void Realm for so long without being discovered by them. This was enough to show how powerful and terrifying this person was. All the infinite primes in the palace did not even dream that the mysterious person who was fighting with Gu Fei was not an infinite prime in the Void Realm, but from the infinite world. Of course, it was impossible for an infinite prime to be born in the Void Realm because the Void Realm did not have the conditions to give birth to an infinite prime. As for Gu Fei, he was originally an infinite prime. It was just that when he was fighting with the infinite prime in Eternal World, he accidentally broke through the void and entered the Void Realm. At that time, he had just entered the infinite prime and his realm was not that stable. That was why his cultivation was suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth of this world. Among the native living beings of the Void Realm, there had never been a single living being who could cultivate to the infinite prime realm. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, the everlasting snow demon, and the everlasting demon lord weren't natives of the Void Realm. They all came from the same place, the everlasting realm. The limitless realm was the true supreme world. This was also the reason why the limitless demon master and the others wanted to return to the limitless realm so badly. This was because the myriad worlds were just too insignificant to existences like them. Only the infinite world was the true stage for infinite primes like them. At this time, Gu Fei and the mysterious black-robed youth were engaged in a fierce battle in the primordial chaos. In this place, they didn't have to worry about anything. They could use all of their powers and didn't need to worry that their battle would affect the creatures in the ethereal extent. However, their auras still came out of the black hole above Southern Wilderness and appeared in the Void Realm. Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones watched the battle from within the primal chaos. This battle was extremely important to them and even the entire Void Realm. The outcome of this battle would directly determine the fate of the entire Void Realm. This was because Gu Fei was the current master of the Void Realm. He was the most powerful person in the entire Void Sky. If Gu Fei was defeated by this mysterious black-robed youth, then this black-robed youth would become the master of the Void Realm. As for Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones, these infinite primes would be doomed. Of course, Gu Fei might not necessarily lose. Boom! Bam! Muffled sounds of collisions rang out continuously in the primal chaos. The two figures completely ignored this land of primal chaos. They moved quickly within the primal chaos and fought endlessly. "Little fellow, you are destined to be no match for me," the black-robed youth said calmly as he attacked. The black-clothed young man said indifferently as he struck out. He seemed to be swinging around casually, not using his full strength at all. He was also constantly devouring the surrounding chaotic force. Tisk, it's just devouring chaotic force. This isn't some amazing ability. Gu Fei didn't think much of it. In the next moment, a powerful ripple of energy erupted from his body. Then the surrounding chaotic force, or even all kinds of energy, gathered towards him and was directly devoured by him. What? Sensing the changes in the surrounding energy, the black-robed youth's expression finally changed. No wonder even the Empress's head was swollen by this little guy. He didn't expect this little guy to have grasped such an ability. Gu Fei could also devour the energy around him. In other words, his energy was limitless, and there was no limit to it. However, the black-robed youth could also devour energy from the outside world. That way, the two of them were really evenly matched. Neither could suppress the other for a while. Time passed, and the battle continued. They've been fighting for so long. Why hasn't a victor been decided yet? All the infinite primes who were watching this battle were extremely nervous. This was because the outcome of this battle was just too important. In particular, the Empress and Moing in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion were eager for Gu Fei to suffer and be defeated by their master. However, an hour passed and the battle continued. 2 hours passed and the battle continued. 6 hours passed and the battle continued. What's going on? The Empress and Moing were indescribably shocked. Even someone as powerful as their master couldn't defeat Gu Fei? In their eyes, their master was omnipotent. The mysterious black-robed youth's strength had long been deeply imprinted in the Empress's and Moing's hearts. If even their master couldn't defeat Gu Fei, then Gu Fei was really powerful. I also want to know why Master hasn't been able to defeat Gu Fei after so long, Moing said in a solemn tone. In the hall of the Imperial Palace of Nanman Royal City, a group of infinite primes were also very anxious. All right, we've played for so long. It's time to end it. In the chaos, the black-robed youth forced back Gu Fei with a punch and then said indifferently, I've played enough. Then let's be more serious. Gu Fei smiled. Huh, interesting. When the black-robed youth heard this, he was a little surprised. This little guy actually hasn't used his full strength? This little guy is really different. This time, coming here from the lower realm is really full of surprises. It seems that this trip was not in vain. Encountering such an opponent, Gu Fei naturally had to figure out this guy's method first. He hadn't used his real trump card yet. All right, then let's be serious. As the black-robed youth said, he made a fist stance. As soon as he made this fist stance, the surrounding chaotic qi was directly dispersed by a wave of power that spread out from his body. And Gu Fei also made a fist stance. He and the black-robed youth were simply opposing each other. The black-robed youth used his fist to speak, and Gu Fei also used his fist to speak. It depended on whose fist was harder. Whoever's fist was harder would be the boss. Chapter 5583. The huge black hole in the sky didn't disappear. It was still there. Gu Fei and the black-clothed youth released a powerful aura from the black hole. The billions of beings in the south were terrified. There was nothing they could do. Both Gu Fei and the black-clothed youth were the strongest existences in the Void Realm. Their auras were extremely powerful. Their battle made it hard for the broken space in the Void Realm to repair. This caused all the infinite Prime Realm experts in the Imperial Palace of the Southern Man's Imperial City to be indescribably shocked. The laws of heaven and earth in the Void Realm were very powerful. After the Void Realm shattered, it would be repaired very quickly by the world energy. At this moment, Gu Fei and the black-clothed youth finally became serious. Boom! The two of them each unleashed a fist stance, and two tyrannical auras clashed against each other, causing the surrounding chaos energy to disperse. These two, Yen Wu, who was watching from afar, couldn't help but be surprised. The cultivation and battle power of these two seemed to be a little higher than hers, but it was just a little. On the other hand, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone retreated even further away. The energy coming from the two of them was too strong. Little guy, I'll give you the chance to attack first. Come, the black-clothed youth suddenly said to Gu Fei. Haha, don't be so polite. You should attack first. Gu Fei smiled. You should attack first. After all, you're a junior. The black-clothed youth said. What are you saying? You're a senior. Isn't it normal for a junior to give way to a senior? Go ahead. Gu Fei wouldn't fall for it. This guy definitely had some tricks up his sleeve if he wanted to attack first. Existences at their level definitely had a lot of trump cards. If the other party used his trump card, it wouldn't be a joke. It was the same for Gu Fei to let the other party attack first. If the other party attacked first, he would reveal a flaw. Once that happened, Gu Fei would use his trump card to defeat him. You first. You first. You first. You first, my ass. Are you going to attack first or not? The two of them were bickering. When Yen Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clone saw this, they were stunned. What were these two doing? These two fellows were all talk and no action. Were they just shooting their mouths off? What are you guys doing? Yen Wu could not take it anymore. She yelled at the two fellows who were bickering with each other. You're infinite primes after all. Why are you fighting like children? Yen Wu was speechless. This is our business. Why are you interfering? Gu Fei said impatiently. That's right. This is a matter between two men. Women shouldn't interrupt. The black-robed youth also said, You bastards, you're too awesome. Yen Wu was furious. Only now do you know how awesome we are. Gu Fei said helplessly, You two bastards, do you want to fight? I have all the time in the world. Yen Wu immediately took out a table and a chair from her inner world and placed fine wine and delicacies on it. She enjoyed the food while watching the two fellows. When Gu Fei and the black-robed youth saw this, they were speechless. I say, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and make your move. Gu Fei said to the black-robed youth impatiently, If you can't take it anymore, you can attack first. There's no need to wait for me. The black-robed youth said disapprovingly, I'm giving you face, but you don't want it? Gu Fei was furious. I'm being shameless. What can you do to me? The black-robed youth said proudly, Io, what can I do to you? Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Gu Fei said fiercely, Then come at me. Attack. The black-robed youth looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. Gu Fei stared at this fellow and gritted his teeth. He really wanted to punch this detestable fellow's face, but his rationality told him not to be impulsive. After all, the consequences of being impulsive were very serious. Gu Fei had suffered a lot along the way. It was not easy for him to achieve what he had today. How could someone like him, who had gone through so many hardships, fall for the black-robed youth's trap? The black-robed youth was also a super antique. His rich combat experience was definitely not inferior to Gu Fei's. When these two people met, they were destined to collide with bright sparks. Attack me, then. After saying that, Gu Fei was about to attack. However, he stopped. You! The black-robed youth was depressed. His opponent was not going to attack. Their cultivation and combat strength were about the same. It was just a matter of who would show a flaw first. Whoever showed a flaw first would be the unlucky one. However, there was no guarantee that one would show a flaw if he attacked. I'm going to attack. Watch carefully, Gu Fei said deliberately in a loud voice. When the black-robed youth heard this, he naturally stared at Gu Fei. However, at this moment, two figures quietly pounced on the black-robed youth from behind. Humph! The black-robed youth sneered. In the next moment, countless fist shadows appeared in the void, blasting at Gu Fei and the two figures behind him. In fact, he had been pretending all along. There was no way the black-robed youth did not know that he would not show a flaw when he attacked. 3 pure ones in one breath. Gu Fei used one of the 9 secrets of Immortal Tao. At the same time, his main body made a move. This was equivalent to 3 Gu Feis attacking the black-robed youth at the same time. No matter how strong the black-robed youth was, there was no way he could withstand the combined attack of 3 Gu Feis. Without any suspense, the black-robed youth was directly punched in the face by Gu Fei, and he was sent flying. You bastard, hitting my face? The The black-robed youth was furious. No one had ever dared to hit his face. He was the one who did it to others. But now he was being slapped in the face by this kid. How could this be? Boom! Amidst the chaos, an unimaginably berserk power erupted violently. The enraged, black-robed youth seemed to have changed into a different person. His entire body was blooming with a divine fire that even Gu Fei had never seen before. A single strand of divine fire seemed to be able to destroy an entire world. Oh, you're mad? Didn't I just punch you once? Don't be angry. Why don't I let you punch me back? Of course, you must have the ability to do so. Gu Fei was very pleased with himself. The black-robed youth's eyes shot out two almost tangible beams of divine light as he stared at Gu Fei. Swoosh! In the next moment, he suddenly disappeared into the void. Almost at the same time, the three Gu Feis also disappeared into the void. Boom! Bam! In the chaos, shadows kept flashing. The three Gu Feis and the enraged, black-robed youth were fighting intensely. How is this possible? You're a clone? Gu Fei suddenly exclaimed. What? Yan Wu, who was enjoying her meal in the distance, shot up from her chair. This mysterious, black-robed youth was just a clone?